could it be? For me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to this Louie T Network exclusive NFL trade deadline special. Last year we did this. It was a wild success. So we're going to run it back this year. I'm going to be with you for the next 3 hours as the NFL trade deadline is turned into the NBA trade deadline. And the reason I told you last year that I felt like it was turning into the NBA is because teams feel like they got a legitimate shot. In past years, it was you got to get past Brady. Then it was you got to get past Mahomes. Well, the Chiefs right now, the playoffs started today, would not be in the playoffs. There is no dominant team in either side of the bracket. The Bills lost to the Falcons this season. There is no one that can't be beaten. And so everybody's got a shot, even including the Daniel Jones-led Indianapolis Colts, and that's where we start today. We've already got news. Adam Schefter said he thought there would be less than 15 trades to take place during this NFL trade deadline. He's going to be wrong. Trades are flowing. Trades are flowing like water at Niagara Falls. Let's talk about it. So we start off the day with the breaking news of Sauce Gardner. Let's make this a little bit bigger here. And we'll be going back and forth through all of this. Let's make this a little bit bigger here. And so that's good right there. Schefter has the trade right here. Jets are trading Sauce Gardner, who to me has not played all that well this season. A lot of penalties, a lot more penalties than big plays for him. We'll talk about that a little bit more and what the Colts are potentially getting here in this trade. But Schefter goes on to write, full trade. Colts receive Sauce Gardner. Jets receive a 2026 and a 2027 first-round pick and wide receiver A.D. Mitchell. Now, I did not know about A.D. Mitchell being included in this trade, but you know they were very upset with him ever since. They might have been a little bit disappointed before then, but the icing on the cake, the thing, the straw that broke the camel's back was that fumble against the Rams. That's a game that they would have won if he does not fumble that football. I don't think he ever really got back in their good graces after that. He was a healthy scratch. He was a guy that barely saw the field after that play. So they throw A.D. Mitchell in this deal. So essentially, the Jets got 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick. Remember, Adonai Mitchell was a second-round pick just last year. So you're talking about a guy that essentially has 2.5 years left on his rookie contract. That is tremendous value if you're the New York Jets for a guy that you probably feel like you overpaid in free agency because you're not getting a return on investment. Remember, we talk about this all the time. When you get a new regime to come into an organization, this is what happens. That last GM drafted Sauce Gardner, not the one that is currently there. This is not his draft pick. This is not his guy. This is not Aaron Glenn's guy. And Aaron Glenn loves cornerbacks. This is a former NFL cornerback we're talking about that's trading away Sauce Gardner. Why? Because he hadn't played up to the standard that they had set for him this year. Like I said, a lot more pass interference penalties than there are big plays being made by Sauce Gardner. And when you play aggressive man coverage, you're going to get some penalties called on you. That's the nature of the beast. But when you're one of the best in the league, they let you get away with a lot more. And he's not getting away with those things. Patrick Surtain is very handsy, very aggressive. He gets away with a lot because he's Patrick Surtain II. Sauce Gardner doesn't get away with those same calls. They flag him like nobody's business. But if you're Indianapolis, you need cornerback help. You went out and got the corner from San Francisco. I don't know why his name is escaping me right now, but you went out and got the cornerback from San Francisco this offseason. And that obviously did not work out. And so he's had his share of injuries this year. Remember the concussion that he suffered before a game where one of the tight ends ran into him pregame. And so that's been a mess. They went out and signed Xavier Howard, if you recall. And Xavier Howard played in like a game and a half and then he quit. It was like, I want to be with my family. And so they've been searching for cornerback help. They started off this season 7-2. The Colts are like, we got a shot this year. We're going to win our division, right? No one else in that division is any good. Houston's not good. Jacksonville, like they know they're better than Jacksonville. Speaking of Jacksonville, they're going for it, right? They said, here's an opportunity for us to get better. Let's go ahead and see if we can't find that one. So to me, this is the biggest trade of the day today for me, right? Like, obviously, Sauce Gardner is going to dominate the headlines. That's a lot of draft capital and a lot in general to give up 2 first-rounders and a second-round receiver that you drafted last year. That's tremendous haul for the Jets. They feel like the biggest winner of today, if we're being honest, right? Because they're not going anywhere right now. And they don't have a quarterback. And they need all the, like now the Jets, if let's say the Jets end up with the number 4 pick in the draft, right? And they're in the running for the number 1 overall pick. Let's say they end up with the number 4 pick somehow. They win another game that they have no business winning. They now have 2 first-round picks that they can dangle in someone's face to say, hey, let us get the number 1 pick. Let us go and get our guy and let us start from the ground up, right? So that's a big deal. But to me, the best player that was available at the receiver position, and we heard that there were 2 positions that teams were going to attack aggressively, really 3: corner, edge rusher, and wide receiver. Again, premium positions. But receiver and edge rusher was supposed to be the 2 hot commodity positions that teams were going to address and attack during this trade deadline. There wasn't a better receiver to be had during this deadline than Rashid Shaheed. To me, this vaults the Seahawks to the top of the discussion in the NFC in terms of the Super Bowl, right? We saw what they did to the Commanders. Obviously, they're not any good. However, they were doing all of this with just JSN, right? Like Torrey Horton is cool. He's a rookie. He's fine, but he hadn't scored since week 2, right? Like, they had nobody opposite of this guy. Like Cooper Kupp, again, he's solid, but his best football is clearly behind him, which is why the Rams moved on from him. To get Rashid Shaheed to add to that mix, now you have 2 legitimate deep threats, and Torrey Horton also has a chance to be a deep threat as well. This is a dangerous Seattle Seahawks team. Shaheed, to me, is the new Deshaun Jackson when it comes to deep balls. He's the new deep threat, the best tracker of the deep ball in the NFL. He's that good, and he's the most dynamic down the field. He's the new Deshaun Jackson. That's what the Seahawks just got, in addition to already having Jackson Smith-Njigba. And it's not a bad thing to have Cooper Kupp as your 3rd option. Hell, maybe even your 4th option if you include Torrey Horton and what he's been able to do in his rookie season. I mean, they've got a wealth of riches, not to mention a tight end position that's thriving with a young up-and-coming tight end in Arroyo. And now, you got Rashid Shaheed added to the mix. They've got the running backs, too. They got the nice little combination of K9 and Charbonnet. This trade right here is the one that I think moved the needle the most. We'll see what Sauce Gardner ends up being. But like I said, he's been a pass interference machine. So this right here is the move that I am the most impressed with. Want to see what the compensation is? Want to see what that compensation is? Obviously, what the Jets got and what the Colts gave up was ridiculous. This is not going to be that. But I do expect a day 2 pick for Rashid Shaheed. The Saints aren't going to just give him away. This feels like a second, no worse than a 3rd-round pick. If you're the New Orleans Saints, I think you have to fetch at least a day 2 pick for Rashid Shaheed. If they get a 4th here, the Seahawks stole. This should be, like I said, Jacoby Meyers fetched the Raiders a 4th and a 6th. He's better than Jacoby Meyers. Rashid Shaheed is better than Jacoby Meyers. He's more of a difference maker than Jacoby Meyers is. So for me, this has to come in greater than Jacoby Meyers' 4th and 6th that he got the Raiders back in return in that Jaguars trade. To me, this is the one that moves the needle the most. The Seahawks feel like a real contender in the NFC, and getting a guy like Rashid Shaheed really moves the needle for them. Really moves the needle. Let's keep going. So here's all of the guys that have been traded. Let's get to the this one here. This is also a big one. This is a guy that we knew was going to get moved today. Like, this felt inevitable that he was going to be on the move. So this is Adam Schefter reporting that Jakobi Meyers traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars in exchange for a 4th and 6th round pick. That's a solid haul for Jakobi Meyers. And when you think about what the Raiders, paid him in free agency, you think about what Jakobi Meyers was coming into the league. This is a solid haul for the Raiders, a 4th and a 6th round pick. I was hoping they could get a 3rd rounder for him, but we always, with the value of a player, it's tough. How bad do you want him? How much do you value a guy? Would you rather get something for him now or not get anything for him at all? And he's still got more years left on his deal that he signed with the Raiders, but they were over him. They were done with him. And not because he's a bad football player. He wanted to be featured in that offense, and they just didn't feel the same way about him. So it just became a weird situation. Like, Brock Bowers is their number 1 wide receiver, even though he's a tight end. And so he had become really disinterested with the lack of target shares in Vegas. And so he's going to get a fresh start with a Jaguars team who desperately needs a number 2 wide receiver, right? Like, Travis Hunter has been solid this year, but just as he started to come on, had his first NFL touchdown, he gets hurt. And we know Brian Thomas has been a bit of a disappointment. I wonder if they're interested in moving him still. Again, if you're going to trade for Jakobi Meyers, that could either be one of 2 things. Either you could be seriously interested in moving Brian Thomas Jr., and this is your replacement for him to go along with Travis Hunter and all the other stuff, the Parker Washington, who just had a massive day. He had his best day of his NFL career. Parker Washington did against the Raiders on Sunday, to go along with him and De'Ami Brown. Or you're adding Jakobi Meyers to the mix to give Trevor Lawrence this wealth of talent at the receiver position with Brian Thomas Jr., Jakobi Meyers, Travis Hunter, Parker Washington, De'Ami Brown, and now you're going to say, try and stop us now, right? It'll be interesting. I don't foresee them trading away Brian Thomas Jr., especially after we just saw Sauce Gardner go for 2 first-round picks and a former second-round pick in last year's draft. It's hard for me to envision Jacksonville fetching the kind of compensation they would be looking for in a BTJ type of trade. So I think this is just them adding Jakobi Meyers to the mix and trying to go after Indy in the division and trying to chase after something big this season. I like what Liam Cohen is doing in Jacksonville. This is going to help them right now. So let's look at what has been done leading up to the trade deadline. And Schefter said 15 trades, right? 15 trades is what he said. Under. He took the over. He set the number at 15, and he said it's going to come in at under, right? So Joe Flacco, as we know, was traded in division from Cleveland to Cincinnati. So that's one. Alohi Gilman, who forced a fumble and recovered it. So he's already had an impact in Baltimore, was traded from the Chargers to the Ravens and has already had an impact. Forced a fumble on Thursday Night Football against the Dolphins, recovered it, and that really got the party started for the Ravens in that game. So that's 2. Adafi Owe, speaking of the Ravens, traded to the Chargers, right? So the Chargers and the Ravens heavily involved in the trades this year. The Ravens have made 2 trades already, and they traded away a guy. So they've been involved in 3 trades, have the Ravens. We'll talk about them a little bit later on. They made a trade early this morning, late last night. Adafi Owe, now a Charger. He's already had a sack and had an impact for the Chargers. That was the whole Alohi Gilman trade. So actually it's 1 trade. So it's 2 trades for the Ravens because that was the trade. Adafi Owe for Alohi Gilman. And I think it was a 6th-round pick in there somewhere too. Tyson Campbell, we remember that deal. Greg Newsome, those 2 were involved in that deal. I think that was a straight-up trade. Might have been like an extra pick. Like I think it was Greg Newsome in a 6 for Tyson Campbell, something like that, or the other way around. Well, or pick swap late, something like that. But Tyson Campbell goes to Cleveland. Greg Newsome goes to Jacksonville. So just giving 2 young cornerbacks a chance at a fresh start. Both teams were maybe a little bit stale with how things were going with those 2 guys. I love this trade for the Rams. Roger McQuarrie is one of my favorite nickels in the NFL. He's just feisty. He's one of these guys you can move outside if you need to because he fights tooth and nail. Just a scrappy corner, man, that tackles. He's rough, tough, and rugged. he's going to fit right in LA. He's so LA. When you look at that defense, it's a bunch of guys that don't get enough respect, that are balling out there. They're just hooping and that are underrated. We're undervalued in the league. Roger McCreary fits right in for me. He was traded from Tennessee to the Rams. Kyle Duggar was traded from the Patriots. We talked about this briefly last week. Former second-round pick that just got a 4-year contract last year from the Patriots, traded to the Steelers. So the Steelers move on from Minkah Fitzpatrick, then realize, oh, shit, we need a guy because their guy got hurt, I think on Sunday Night Football versus the Packers a couple weekends ago, out for the season. So they needed a guy. They went and got Kyle Duggar, and we'll see how he impacts that team. Keion White was traded from, speaking of New England, traded to the San Francisco 49ers, former first-round pick out of Georgia Tech, was, there prior to this staff getting there. Keion White has been solid, but I never thought he would live up to the first-round hype. And so he's going to get an opportunity in San Francisco, and it's a shame because they thought they were going to pair him with Mykel Williams, their first-round pick from this year, and then he tears his ACL. So you lose Bosa earlier this season if you're San Francisco. And then you say we're going to replace him with Keion White, and now you got Mykel Williams injured, and now you got to figure that thing out. So really tough for the 49ers, but Keion White's going to come in there and try to help on that defensive line. John Mechie comes over. Who? Okay, so Joe Tryon Shoyinka just got traded to the Bears from the Browns. That's a minimal deal, minimal movement. That doesn't really move the needle. That's a guy that was a late first-round pick, some years ago, really didn't ever get it going in Tampa, signed a free agent deal this offseason with the Browns, really didn't make much noise there. And the Bears need pass rush. They need someone that can be active off the edge. So add another name to this list. We'll see what the number count is here. But Mechie is a guy that was traded from Houston to Philadelphia. Eagles really didn't get any real run out of him. So they moved on from him, traded him to the Jets for Michael Carter II, as you can see here. Eagles desperately need wide receiver help. So you see, they not only trade for Michael Carter II, who's a really solid nickel. They trade for Jair Alexander, who's oft injured, and I think he's washed, to be honest with you. But look, he's better than what they had out there, period. End of discussion. Like, you couldn't put Keely Ringo out there and expect good results. So when Jair Alexander is healthy, he's better than Keely Ringo, but he's not a needle mover. You can beat Jair Alexander, but he does play with swagger. And if you make a mistake, he will make you pay for said mistake, but you can beat Jair Alexander. Receivers have been doing it for years, right? And now he's not the guy that he once was. So we'll see what that does for Philadelphia, but they're going for it, obviously. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more here in a second. Logan Wilson, it feels like the Cowboys just be doing shit just to do shit. Like, Logan Wilson got benched in Cincinnati because they drafted some young linebackers over the last couple of years. Donovan Knight this year, the second-round pick out of Demetrius Knight, the second-round pick out of Texas A&M, I believe, not Mississippi State, one of those teams, came in, has played really well for them, and so he found the bench. And he's an aging linebacker. Boy, the Cowboys love them a white linebacker, boy. I tell you, they love the whites at the linebacker position. That feels like a very useless trade, but he's still got another year left, I think, on his contract after this year. He's they had to give up a 6th-round pick, so I don't think that really hurts you all that much, but I don't think this is they also were hurting at linebacker, we will say. Like, they could use an upgrade there. So I get it, but I don't get it at the same time. Draymond Jones is definitely a guy that can help the Baltimore Ravens. I talked about, we were going to talk about the Ravens again. The Ravens see the light at the end of the tunnel. They understand that they got a legitimate shot. Now, the Steelers beating the Colts last week, doesn't kill their chances. It just makes it that much tougher because we just expected the Steelers to start losing games and Baltimore be able to walk them down easily. But Pittsburgh's not going to go down without a fight. But Baltimore is going to load up, right, and continue to add guys that are going to be able to come in and help them on that defensive front. So Draymond Jones added to the mix, and he can definitely help them up front. Jalen Phillips, this is a big one for the Eagles. They lacked real pass rush this year. They've been banged up front, and guys have not played to their level of talent. Most notably, Jalen Carter has had a down year this season, but they really haven't had guys pick it up, right? They let Milton Williams go, just figured they'd be okay. They also didn't bring back Josh Sweat, and they just haven't gotten the production from the guys that have stepped in their places. And obviously, you've had injuries. Nolan Smith has been injured this season, so they need help off the edge. They need help in the corner. Like their defense, I've been talking about this defense isn't good. The defense hasn't been good, so they're trying to remake their defense in season to try and give themselves a chance to go back-to-back. They look at the rest of the conference, the Seattles and the Rams, and they understand that right now, from a firepower standpoint, they're out-leveraged. They're out-leveraged defensively. And so what they've done effectively is they said, we got to give ourselves a chance to fight. The Eagles don't have the highest powered offense themselves, and now you're telling me our defense is average at best. At best, we got to do something, and clearly you've seen them do something over the last week. Trading for Michael Carter II, trading for Jair Alexander, and now trading for Jalen Phillips. Give up a third-round pick for Jalen Phillips. They still have 8 picks, do the Eagles. A first, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, 2 fourths, I believe, and a fifth or something like that. Like, they're still strapped, bro. Like, they can afford to give up a third and it not hurt, right? And then we talked about Jakobi Meyers from Jacksonville. So let's see. So we're gonna talk about some of the rumors and things of that nature that are coming down the pipeline. So let's count how many of these are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. This is 15 right here. You add the Sauce Gardner trade in, that's 16. You add the Joe Tryon-Shoyinka trade in, that's 17. So Adam Schefter set the number at 15. That number has already been eclipsed. He said he took the under on 15 just a week ago. He took the under on that number. It is now there now have been 17 trades in the month of October and now here in November. So that number has been exceeded. So here's the Joe Tryon-Shoyinka trade. Oh, I didn't know Dio Odangbo had gotten injured and was out for the entire season. He had been playing so well for them. That's why they did this. It makes a lot more sense now. So another trade here, as we talked about, Browns are sending Joe Tryon-Shoyinka and a 7th-round pick to Chicago in exchange for a 6th-round pick. So, again, they're attaching a guy with high upside that hasn't really produced in the NFL. They're attaching a 7th-round pick with him and getting a 6th-round pick back are the Browns. So feels like an equal deal, right? And if you're the Bears, you hope that your scheme somehow helps him come to life. It's probably not. And Deo Odangbo was playing so well for them up front. One of the few guys that was getting consistent pressure. Now they're hoping that Joe Tryon-Shoyinka can come in and play well for them. So wow. So we'll keep. And I know that there are a lot of sites and a lot of places that are giving us information. I'm just going to stick with Schefter. And I'm working my phones too. My wife's working her phone over there too. So we're all over this stuff, man. So we'll see what continues to go down. So, wow. Okay, so we got the compensation. Schefter just tweeted this out. He just tweeted this out. Let me refresh. So we got the compensation for the Rashid Shaheed trade. All right, here it is. Seahawks are sending a 2026 4th and 5th round picks to the Saints. Boy, that's a steal. This is a 3rd-round receiver, folks. This is a day 2 receiver. Now, they technically got more. They technically got more than what the Jags or the Raiders got for Jakobi Meyers. So, technically speaking, he did fetch more. And if you combine the 2 picks, it's probably going to equal a low-level third, like a compensatory third, right? When you add in that 5th round to the 4th round value, it's probably going to end up being a compensatory 3rd round pick, so a low-level third. But I would rather just have the 3rd round pick, personally. They couldn't get that, but they got the next best thing, a fourth and a fifth. To me, that's a steal. For a guy that's going to come in here and be one of the best deep threats in the NFL on a roster that's already loaded and already at 6-2 and playing some of the best football in the league, this feels like a steal. So this is a big one for the Seattle Seahawks. And the Saints are offloading. That means you got to call. You got to call the Saints. And I know they want to get a deal done with Chris Olave. They want to keep him. You got to call the Saints on Chris Olave. If they're willing to take a fourth and a fifth for Rashid Shaheed, obviously they're going to want more for Olave. Olave was a former first-round pick, right? Top 15 pick. I think he was 11th overall in the draft. So they're not going to just take anything for Olave. Remember, Rashid Shaheed was an undrafted guy that burst onto the scene. So a little bit different, right? They're not going to just take anything. They're going to probably want a second-round pick for Chris Olave if they are to give him up. But you got to call. You got to make the phone call. Clearly, they're selling. They're open. We've heard Alvin Kamara's name come up as well as a guy that could potentially end up getting traded. So the Saints are open for business. I would check in on Chase Young. He's played well this season when healthy. Had a sack on Sunday. Forced a fumble the other day, right? I would call. I would make the phone call for Chase Young. Or I think he forced a fumble against Tampa 2 weeks ago. He had a sack last week as well against the Rams. I'd pick up the phone and call on him if you need defensive end help. They're selling. They're selling. So be interesting to see what else goes down. All right. So I'm going to keep working the phones. And we'll come back to that if something else were to happen. All right. So if you're a Commanders fan, I think this is cap. Personally, I'll pull it up, but I think it's cap. But I told you we're gonna take a look at all the rumors, everything that's going on. So we're gonna talk about everything, but I think this is cap. This is why you gotta be careful this time of the year. You know, free agency, all of this stuff, you gotta be careful. However, we're gonna look at some of these rumors, right? So let's take a look at some of these rumors. Again, I think these are cap. These are cap, but let's take a look at them. So this one from ML Football. Buffalo Bills just became the favorites to trade for Jags wide receiver BTJ. He was a first-round pick. I mean, how great of a move would that be for Buffalo? They really don't have a number one wide receiver. You know what it's going to take. They want a first-round pick for him. I drafted him with a first-round pick. I want my first-round pick back. If I'm Jacksonville, I got you by the balls here. You need him. I don't have to trade him. I keep him. I don't have to give him away. This man is in year 2 after a 1,200-yard season in his rookie campaign. He's in year 2. I may be a little down on him, but we know he's a talent. I want more than just a first-round pick. I want a first-round pick and something. I don't know what that and something is, but I need a sweetener. Like I'm putting teams against each other if this kid is truly available. I want a 1 and I want something else. Whether that's a player, whether that's an additional pick, a 4th, a 5th. So I need a sweetener. I don't want just a 1. But again, ML Football, he's generally capped. But like I said, during this period, we talk about rumors too. We talk about rumors as well. So let's see. Here's another one. We have heard that teams are inquiring about Jalen Waddle. So ML Football says the Steelers are now one of the favorites. Now, Poly market thing, I'm assuming, is some kind of like predictor app or something. It's probably some kind of odds thing or something. I don't know. But ultimately, Waddle, I think, is available. They don't want to trade him, but they're listening. Just like I don't know if the Jags necessarily want to trade Brian Thomas, but they're listening. If you're Miami and you have any like sense, you wouldn't trade Jalen Waddle. Tyreek Hill might be cooked. He might be done at this point. He's contemplating retirement. You got nothing else at receiver. I wouldn't do this. You had a wealth of edge rushers. So moving on from Chubb and Jalen Phillips is fine. If you moved on from both of them, I wouldn't be mad. But Waddle is young. He's super productive. You've already paid him. I wouldn't move on from him. But I think he is available if for the right price. That's a guy that you got to also keep in mind there. So this is another rumor. I think this is cap. The Commanders are one of the 3 favorites to trade for Chris Olave. We don't have the draft capital. What are you giving up for him? I've already said Olave fetches you at least at a bare minimum a 2nd-round pick. We don't have a 2nd-round pick. So we aren't in the market for anyone. We're not trading for anyone. We're trying to acquire picks. As a matter of fact, this is what we should be on. And let me see if matter of fact, I had already clipped this one. So we can let's get back to some reality though. Let's get back to Schefter and see what he's got going on. Just to make sure nothing else happened while we was entertaining some bullshit. All right. So let me get back on the screen real quick. And let me pull this up. If you're a Commanders fan, this is what you should be in. Like we not involved in none of the big shit. We're not involved in none of that. This is what we're supposed to be on right here. This is what we're supposed to be on. This is from Jordan Schultz yesterday. He writes, sources. The Commanders have been open to trading several players, including offensive lineman Andrew Wiley and Nick Allegretti, both of whom bring extensive starting and playoff experience. Wiley has valuable position flexibility, having played both guard spots and right tackle during his career. Remember, if I'm the Chargers, you've lost both starting tackles this season. Joe Alt just put on IR with a season-ending ankle injury, right? You already lost Rashawn Slater before the season really even got started. You need offensive tackle help. You can do a hell of a lot worse in this league than Andrew Wiley at right tackle. You got to figure out left tackle, but Wiley at right tackle can help stabilize your offensive line. And all it'll cost you is a 6th-round pick. That's me being aggressive. It'll really just cost you a 7th-round pick. But because I know you don't have shit, give me a 6. Right? Look at me trying to play hardball knowing that don't nobody else really want Andrew Wiley's ass. Probably just got to take the 7th and shut up. Hey, we need all the draft capital we can get. So this is what we're supposed to be on right here. Finding a way to move Allegretti if you can. I don't know if anybody's truly interested in him, but he can start for you if you're hurting on your offensive line. Wiley is a much better commodity because he's a starter. He can play both guard positions and tackle, and he can start for you at right tackle. He can start for you at right tackle. So Chargers, call me, right? Hit my line. So that was something that went down. That was a rumor that was prevalent yesterday. I still think there's a chance something like that gets done, if anything gets done for the Commanders. I can't see them being like, there's a lot of guys that could be traded for the Commanders. I'd trade Quan Martin. Why not? You know, former second round pick you're disappointed in. I'd trade Quan Martin. See what you can get for him. Maybe you can get a 5th for him. Somebody looking to give him a fresh start. I trade Debo. Somebody looking for some receiver help on the cheap, just give me my 5th round pick back. I traded a 5th rounder for him. You give me a 5th rounder for him. We call it even, right? That's the type of time that I would be on. Everybody's, Deron Payne, hit me up. Hit me up if you're interested. This is a guy that can definitely help you. All I'm asking for is a 4th round pick. Might not get it. Give me a 5th. Let's move. So I'd be open for business. If I were the Commanders, but we'll see. We're going to talk about this Cowboys trade real quick, which to me makes absolutely no sense. So this was Schefter earlier. A deal for Dallas Cowboys are finalizing a trade, which we know this has already gone through. Jerry Jones did tell Stephen A. Smith on XM, a Sirius radio, that the Cowboys were going to make 2 trades. This is one. So there could be a second trade coming. A lot of people think it's going to be Chubb, right? Bradley Chubb as the second trade. We'll see if that ends up being what it is. But this, again, I get it. Their linebacker position has been disappointing. Murray has been solid. The other linebacker came from Chicago with Eberflus, and he hasn't been any good. He's really more of a backup special teams type linebacker that they have given a starter position to, and the results have looked like a backup special teams linebacker. So he's going to upgrade their linebacker position. But again, the linebacker is the least of your issues defensively. You know what I mean? You still can't get to the quarterback, right? So I guess. When they went out and got Kenneth Murray, you knew what you were signing up for. He wasn't good in LA with the Chargers. He wasn't good with the Titans. So what did you think he was going to be for the Cowboys? He's been solid. Solid at best. That might be being a little generous. They don't have any linebackers, so I get why they want to do this, but he's not a massive upgrade. But cool. I mean, it just cost you a 6th round pick, I guess. That's the way to look at it. I find it so funny that the Cowboys are in on all of these different defensive players when you had Micah Parsons. Like, it would be so comical, it would be so Dallas if they traded for Bradley Chubb today. It would be so comical if they traded for an edge rusher when you had the best one in football on your team. But it would be hilarious. So Dallas Cowboys if they were to do something like that today. But again, I digress. So let's go back to, let me just check Schefter, see if anything else has happened. And then we're going to talk about some of these other players so nothing else has happened. And we'll go and we will check social media if anything else transpires. We will we'll talk about it, but let's talk about some of the guys that are still potentially available this trade deadline. Let's talk about some of those guys. I think so. On my artwork, I had 6 players. Logan Wilson already traded. Reek Woolen, we'll talk about him here in a second. Cam Taylor-Britt, talk about him here in a second. Rashid Shaheed already traded. Jacoby Meyers already traded. Sauce Gardner already traded. So let's talk about these 2 corners here. And we'll also talk about Bradley Chubb from the Dolphins if he could, in fact, be moved. Because, like I said, the rumors were that teams were going to be extremely interested in two positions in particular, and I think you can add corner into that mix. But edge rusher and receiver were going to be the two hottest markets during the trade deadline this year. And what we've seen is that receiver and corner have been two of the hottest markets this trade deadline. Corner has already been hit with Sauce Gardner. That's as high level as you're going to get, right? 2 first-round picks for those of you just joining us. 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner and Adonai Mitchell. So the Jets came away making out like a bandit for a guy that they were disappointed in this season. More pass interference penalties. I've got to assume he's up there towards the top of the list in penalties this season. Defensive penalties, whether it's illegal contact, pass interference, holding. Sauce Gardner gets all of them shits. And the officials don't give him any breaks because of his name. Normally, when you're of a certain pedigree, you get the benefit of your namesake. Patrick Surtain is extremely handsy and aggressive, but he gets away with it because he's Patrick Surtain. You know, once upon a time, Darrelle Revis, very handsy, gets away with it because he's Darrelle Revis. We've seen corners be extremely handsy, get away with it because of who they are. Sauce Gardner wasn't being afforded that opportunity. And so we'll see what happens with the Jets. He gets a fresh start on a team. He goes from the worst team in football, the 1-7 Jets, to the best team in football, the 7-2 Indianapolis Colts, one of the best teams in football. So big change for him. Big change for him. So let's go back to Schefter real quick, and then I got a super chat, so I'm going to get to that here in a second as well. Nothing new there. All right. So let's get to this super chat, and then we will get to those 2 corners that I'm talking about, and Bradley Chubb. Kevin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Kevin writes, "Hey Lou, what's up, Kevin? Hope JD gets well soon. Injuries have sucked this year. I know Mogi robbed Ballard blind. Love it for the Jets' future. Hope we trade for Tavondre." Look, if the Titans are giving away stuff, Tavondre Sweat would be a really nice get. That is a athletic freak at about 350, 60 pounds, bro. That can move and stop the run. I don't know if he's available. Everyone's calling about the other defensive tackle. They're not trading him. All right. They're not trading Big Jeff Simmons as my guy. Shout out to my guy, MJ. They're not trading him. So Tavondre might be the one you can get. And he's a mountain of a man. But yeah, Mogi robbed Ballard blind for sure. That is a hell of a haul. 2 first-rounders and A.D. Mitchell. I know you were disappointed in A.D. Mitchell, but you couldn't get him for a 1, a 4, and A.D. Mitchell? You had to give up 2 first-rounders for him? You know what it feels like? Remember when Seattle gave up like 80 first-round picks for Jamal Adams from Seattle or from the Jets? Feels like that, right? Like, I don't know if Sauce Gardner can live up to the hype, but this is what I do know. He's still extremely young. He's still super talented, and the Colts think they can win something this year. And when you have a team by the balls like that, you set the parameters, right? You get to set the terms, and they can either meet it or not. The Jets, again, they're in a position where I don't have to trade Sauce Gardner. I don't have to do it. I'll just keep him on my team. I got him under contract for a number of years into the future. I don't have to do anything. How bad do you want him? That's the beauty of the trade deadline. This is when you get a chance to fleece teams. You get desperation from teams. This is why a lot of teams don't like to do business in season, because you're desperate now. You're desperate. You think you got a chance to do something, so you're going to go for it, and it forces you to give up things that you wouldn't part ways with in the offseason. That's when it's more reasonable to do trades. You're more level-headed. There's not this sense of desperation. So that's amazing that the Jets were able to get a haul that included 2 first-round picks and a former second-round wide receiver from last year's draft. Not 2 drafts ago, last year's draft. So that's interesting stuff. BJ McDowell, been a member for 21 months, who writes, acceptance as of yesterday, Lou. So you are right where I was yesterday, basically. You've gotten to that acceptance stage of your commander's grief. And that's a good place to be, right? It's not necessarily finality, but you're getting close to a place of peace with the situation when you get to that point. I still have to go through depression. I haven't hit that yet, but once I sit down, watch some more football, we start getting our doors blown off like every weekend. We expect it because we've been getting blown out the last 3 weeks. But when you expect it now and it happens, then it becomes depressive. While watching other teams have success, then it becomes depressive. So I'm going to hit that eventually. So now let's talk about some more players that could be available. So something else you got to take into consideration is when you think about trades, something that we don't often think about with trades, the health of a player, how much time they have left on their contracts, how much money they're being paid. These are all things that come into play, right? This is what can command more. Like Sauce Gardner, they just gave him an extension, I believe, last year. So that gave them more leverage. You're getting a guy basically under contract for the next 3 years, I believe, 3 or 4 years. Because I believe the Jets gave him a 4-year extension. He already had a year on his deal, so left on his deal. So if I'm not mistaken, he's got at a bare minimum, Sauce Gardner has 3 years left on his deal. That's why you give up what you give up for a guy that at one point was an all-pro in this league. So the cornerback market is a big one. And so I'm looking at 2 corners. One of them, to me, is the one I would really pursue, and that's Riq Woolen of the Seattle Seahawks. Now, clearly, he is not a favorite of head coach Mike Macdonald, which you have to ask yourself, why is that? This guy is supremely talented. He offers things that you just don't find in today's NFL. This guy's 6'3", 6'4". He's roughly 200 pounds, 195, 200. He's not the biggest guy, but he runs a sub 4, 340 or a sub 440, right? So we're talking about a guy that runs a 4.3 something. Like extremely long limbs. So even if he's beat on the play, he can still get back into the play. Not the the best tackler in the world, but this is a guy that can help a team. If I were the Colts, and I thought this might have been the route that they tried to take, I would have gone after him instead of Sauce Gardner because it would have cost me a hell of a lot less. But clearly they believe in Sauce Gardner and they think, oh, no. This guy is an all-pro and we're going to get him back to that status. And we're going to see if they can do that or not. So Riq Woolen is the guy. I just prayed that he didn't get to Philadelphia. I was like, please don't let Riq Woolen, with them trading for Jair Alexander, I feel like they're done at the cornerback position. They traded for Michael Carter II. They traded for Jair Alexander. So I feel kind of safe now. Like they're not going to go after Reek Woolen. I don't know if he's even available, to be honest with you. I figured he was because of the way they were utilizing him, coming off the bench, felt like he was constantly in the doghouse. I think he's available. You know, we'll see. But the other guy is Cam Taylor-Britt. And he's hit or miss. He's one of these guys that he's got on an expiring contract. They're not going to re-sign him when this is all said and done. Doesn't feel like. He's been a disappointment this year. And he can play. He can play. But he's really a press cover corner that can be beaten, has tremendous ball skills, but he's hit or miss. And if you're playing man coverage and a ton of it, he might be your guy. But just know he's going to lose it as well, right? He's going to get beat. Extremely talented, but he's not consistent. But he can be an upgrade for a team looking to compete that doesn't have those types of corners out there. You're talking about a corner that's 6'2", long limbs, can run. Like, he checks a lot of boxes. We all remember the one-handed pick against Mahomes last year. Like, this guy can play football, but he's wildly inconsistent. So that's another guy that could help. John Cedillo, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, on the Wilson linebacker trade, it's a positive move with minimal investment. He walks in being the better than what we have on the roster. Nobody's doubting that. And a 6th-round pick isn't a lot of an investment, right? Like you said, a minimal investment. But it doesn't move the needle, right? It doesn't move the needle. But again, this is just me. You're not going anywhere this year. He's 28 years old. Okay. He's not going to change your defense this year. He's not. This is my argument. He's 29 next year. Right? He's 29 years old next year. Why not draft a 6th-round linebacker who can give you what Logan Wilson can give you? Like, I'd much rather have my 6th-round pick. That's me personally. That's me personally. This, to me, is a nothing burger move. You're getting an aging linebacker that, yes, he is technically better than what you have on the roster. But what is he actually truly doing for your defense that's going to change the fortunes of the way you guys play football right now? You guys can't cover anybody in the secondary. Logan Wilson is a really good coverage linebacker. He is. But you're going to get killed on the outside. You can't cover anybody outside. You're not getting killed by tight ends over the middle of the football field, which is where Logan Wilson would come into play. You're getting killed by tight ends on the outside. You're getting killed by receivers on the outside. You're getting killed by receivers on the inside. You can't get any pass rush. So a 28-year-old linebacker is going to change that? That's my argument. There's nothing wrong with improving your roster, though, John, and I get that. And for a 6th-round pick, again, I don't love 6th and 7th-round picks. So I'm not telling you to hoard those. But, again, a 28-year-old linebacker that's going to be 29 next year. What are we doing here? I'm never – and this is probably my biggest issue is you had Micah Parsons. He made up for so many deficiencies on defense for you. You traded him away, and now you're trying to find Band-Aid solutions at every turn. My brain can't compute. And I guess I have to move on from that, and I got to stop talking about that, but I can't. Because even with the deficiencies in the secondary, even with your linebackers being ass this season, Michael Parsons would have made this at a bare minimum a middle-of-the-pack defense. Because he would have gotten pressure on plays where the quarterback's just standing back there, patting the ball, waiting for Marvin Harrison Jr. to come back on a 15-yard comeback to 12. He'd be back there in Jacoby Brissett's face already. forcing him off the spot, sacking him, or making him throw the football away. He'd be chasing Bo Nix around so Bo Nix couldn't stand back there and wait for, you know, what's the receiver from Oregon? Troy Franklin to come open. He wouldn't be able to stand back there and wait for Pat Bryant to break open in the back of the corner, in the back left corner of the end zone for a touchdown. So I guess that's where I struggle. But, you know, I get it. Like you said, he immediately walks in and he's the best linebacker you got. So from that standpoint, it makes sense. It just isn't a needle mover to me, John. That's all. It's not a needle mover. Barrett Downing, been a member for 50 months. Celebrate. Who writes, been looking something good on the team, can't find it. Yo, today's not your day. If you're looking for anything for the Commanders, today's not your day. You sit today out. It's not about us. It's about teams who got a legitimate shot and teams who actually have assets that other teams want. We are in neither category. You either have stuff that other people want, or you are chasing after a chip and you're going to acquire that stuff that people have that you want. We fit in neither category. So we got to sit out. We don't have shit that anybody else wants. And we're 3-6 and we're not going anywhere this year. So we got to sit today out. This is fun for all the other teams that are actually good or at least have some shit that somebody else wants. That's how you get better faster. Like if you're the Jets, you won today. You're ass. You're not going anywhere this year. You got a new GM, a new head coach, and they were able to fleece the damn Colts today. That's what it felt like. Now, if Sauce Gardner leads the Colts to the AFC Championship and he's locking shit down on one side of the field, then all of a sudden this makes a ton of sense for the Colts. And they've gotten tremendous value themselves. Again, a young player who's got a lot of years left on his deal. They don't have to worry about negotiating with him or anything like that. That makes a difference. Still a lot of shit they gave up, though. But anyway. John Cedillo. My guy, John. Double up. My favorite Cowboys fan. Second favorite, after my dad, of course. My guy, John, writes, there's no disagreement. This move does nothing to change my outlook. Just glad they didn't do something stupid by using any. I agree with that. Like for Max Crosby on Parsons, they effed up by not signing him. I agree with you first and foremost. Like Jerry talked about, he's going to use these picks that he got in the Parsons deal, and I'm like, no, don't do that. Like, again, you got this first round ammunition now. You could see a player that you absolutely love. Let's say you end up with the 19th pick in the draft. You end up 8-1 this year. So you just missed the playoffs by maybe 2 games or so. And so you end up with the 19th pick in the draft. You end up with the 18th pick in the draft. You see a player that you absolutely, like you did with Parsons, sitting there at 11th. 11, rather. You could easily trade up. Guys falling that you think is super talented. You got a first round pick there and then another one later in the first round because the Packers are going to be a playoff team, obviously. You package those 2 first rounders up. You can move up and get you a guy if you want, or you could just get 2 first round talents, right? And this is what Jerry complains about, spending too much money on re-signing players, right? If that's the case, you're getting a chance to get cheap labor, right? A guy on a rookie contract for the next 5 years that you don't have to worry about paying. And one thing I can say about the Cowboys, now they haven't had the best success at the back end of the first round with the Mozzie Smiths of the world. And I think Tyler Guyton's going to be a bust, but whatever. You know, maybe he continues to get better. It doesn't feel like it. I never liked him coming out of Oklahoma, but whatever, right? Doesn't feel like you nail it on the back end of the first round. But anything, top half of the first round, you knock it out of the park. CeeDee Lamb, Michael Parsons. I mean, we can go on and on and on. I think Booker's going to be really good. Every lineman that you drafted, right? You just had one retire in Martin. He's going in the Hall of Fame, right? Travis Frederick, before he got the disease, was all world, right? Like, you guys don't miss. I think he might have been the back end of the first round, though. Travis Frederick. I might be tripping. But either way, you're going to have a shot to get 2 guys in the first round. So I just keep that, right? Because, again, Max Crosby, Trey Hendrickson, none of those guys are changing your football team. None of those guys are changing your football team. Troy Aikman said it best last night. Trey Hendrickson, if you were to go get him, for instance, it'd be the same situation Trey Hendrickson was in last year. He was the best player on the worst defense in football last year. He didn't change them, and he had double-digit sacks last year. And he didn't change anything for them. Why would you want to go? Now, Max Crosby is the more impactful player. Like, Trey Hendrickson really doesn't impact the run like Max Crosby does. Now, in saying that, Max Crosby doesn't get to the quarterback the way that Trey Hendrickson does, but he impacts the game. You feel him. Even when he doesn't get to the quarterback, he's disrupting shit. He's forcing penalties. He's blowing up plays. He's getting the quarterback out of the pocket. Crosby would be a guy that I would be willing to give up a first-round pick for. I'm just saying, like, if the Raiders were willing to trade him, that's a guy you give up 2 first-round picks for. You watch him on a weekly basis, blow shit up, and be impactful. Max Crosby ends the season with 9 sacks, and you go, what's the big fuss about Max Crosby? You ain't watching that. You ain't watching. Because if you watch this dude blow shit up, draw holding penalties, and, knife in the backfield for a tackle for loss, he gets like 2 or 3 of those a week. He gets like 2 of those a week. And then tack on a holding penalty that he draws, 1 or 2 of those a week. This guy is phenomenal. So if you were to get Max Crosby, I'd definitely say, nah, that's worth it. But at the end of the day, they effed up by not re-signing Michael Parsons. That's where they went wrong. So, and I can't get that out of my mind. I can't get that out of my head. And that's probably a me issue. That's a me problem. So maybe that's what I have to do. I have to let that go. And that will provide me with the ability to see the deal. And like, these are mutually exclusive. Them trading for Logan Wilson is a mutually exclusive move from Michael Parsons. It has nothing to do. One has nothing to do with the other. You need linebacker help. Period. End of discussion. He's better than what you have, and you only gave up a 6th-round pick. That's a positive move. It's just not a needle mover for me. That's all. But like you said, it does improve your linebacker room. It does improve your defense. Even if ever so slightly, it does improve your defense. You didn't get worse today, and you only gave up a 6th-round pick. So. All right. Let's see. I'm seeing people talk about Quinnen Williams to Dallas. I haven't heard anything. So, now the Jets are selling. The Jets are selling. And I would pick up the phone. And again, if they're willing to give up Sauce Gardner, that means Quinnen Williams probably is a guy that they're willing to move. So, we'll see. But if you get Quinnen Williams, and again, that's cool, good football player, but then what was the point of getting Kenny Clark? You still don't have anybody off the edge. Like, Ezra Raku is cool. That young fella is coming on. He's playing better. But, again, you got 2 good defensive tackles if you add him next to Kenny Clark. Now what? Now what? You still got to get off the edge. Dante Fowler Jr. is going to get you the pressure you need off the edge. Jadeveon Clowney is going to be the guy. I mean, theoretically speaking, you would be building for the future. And also what we got to also take into consideration, which we also got to take into consideration is that let's go on X and see if anything has manifested itself. All right, so here we go. Blockbuster deal. Cowboys, Jerry Jones told everybody that he was making 2 trades. He made 1 already. So here's the other one. Quinnen Williams, 3-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle, is going to the Dallas Cowboys. All right, and I can't wait to see the compensation for this one. I wonder if the Jets just fleece somebody else for 2 first-round picks. I want to see what the compensation is here for this one. They definitely gave up a first-round pick. That has to happen. The question is, what else did they give up? What else did they give up here? So, this is a big move for Dallas, and I'll tell you why. This is a young player. How old is Quinnen Williams? He's got to be 20, no more than 26 years old. Let's see how old Quinnen Williams is. Quinnen Williams is 20. Okay, he's 27. He'll be 28 this year. So he's not as young as I thought he was. He's 28 years old. So similar to Logan Wilson, he's pushing towards 30. He's still got a lot of good football left in him, though, right? Like he'll be 28 in December. I'm assuming he's got multiple years left on his contract. Feel like he just got paid when Deron Payne got paid. So maybe he's got 1 more year after this year. I felt like they got paid in the same offseason. So let me see how many years left does Quinnen Williams have? How many years? How many years does Quinnen Williams have left on his contract? So he signed through the 2027 season. So this year, or 26 and 27. So 2 more years after this year on his contract. So you're going to have him until his age 30 season, right? He's turning 28 this year. He'll be 29 in December next year. He'll be 30 in 2027. So you give up a first-round pick. I'm assuming they gave up a first-round pick for him. I wonder if there's any other compensation attached to it. But now you have 2 really good defensive tackles. That's going to make it tougher to run on the Cowboys. That's going to give them some interior, because Kenny Clark ain't rushing a quarterback. Okay, Kenny Clark is a run-stuffing defensive tackle. Now you pair him with a guy that can actually get to the quarterback in Quinnen Williams. That and the best pressure that you can apply to a quarterback is right up the middle. So this is a great move from that perspective. You still got to get pressure on the quarterback off the edges, which they're lacking. And so something still has to be done there. But, and I'm interested, if they're not giving up multiple firsts, which I don't think that's what's going to happen here. Which one of the first-round picks did the Jets force them to give up? Theirs or the Packers? If I'm Jerry, you get the Packers pick. You're not getting my pick. You're getting the Packers pick, right? So that's going to be interesting too. You're getting the Packers pick. You're not getting my pick in the first round. So that's a big move. Now, you still got to re-sign George Pickens, right? Because you traded for him last year and you don't want to just allow him to walk away. But this is a good move for Dallas. It's a really good move for Dallas. Really good move for Dallas. You still don't have anybody off the edge getting to the quarterback. Now, could you have imagined them doing this and still having Micah Parsons? I got to stop. And maybe they don't do this if they still have Micah Parsons. Maybe they don't have the ammunition to be able to trade away a first rounder and feel comfortable doing that, still having one remaining. But I'd rather just have Micah Parsons than Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson, to be honest with you. But again, I got to stop, right? What's done is done. So Cowboys add Quinnen Williams. It's a hell of a move for Dallas. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. They've gotten better today defensively. How much better is the question? Because you still can't cover a soul in the secondary. And it ain't like Quinnen Williams is kicking ass up front in terms of getting to the quarterback on like every other snap, like Michael Parsons damn near was, right? So this will help the Cowboys immensely, but they still need help. They still need help. Now, I will tell you this. DeMarvion Overshown is going to be back soon. And if he can stay healthy, look out. Because he was like, it turned into shit. Now we got to worry about Parsons and DeMarvion Overshown. That's what it turned into. That's what it turned into. So if he could ever get back to what he once was, let's refresh this and see if we get some compensation. So we don't have the compensation, but Schefter adds to the tweet. He says, notable Cowboy trade since the offseason. Traded for Quinnen Williams. We just talked about that. Logan Wilson just talked about that. Traded for Kenny Clark. That was included in the Michael Parsons trade. George Pickens has been an absolute demon for them this year. Kyer Elam, that's a bust of a move. But again, they knew what they were getting themselves into. They didn't give up a ton to get him. And he was a failed first-round pick in Buffalo. They were just trying their hand to see if he could, if they could clean up a former first-round pick, give him a fresh start, and see if he could play good ball for them. It didn't happen. Kenneth Murray from the Titans. He was basic with Tennessee. He was basic with the Chargers, and you're getting basic Kenneth Murray. Like, I mean, you knew what you were signing up for. And Joe Milton, and who knows what his future is in Dallas. But they traded away Michael Parsons, and that's the big one, right? Yeah, all of this is cool. All of this sounds good, but this is the one that stings for me. The Michael Parsons trade. I can't get over that, right? But again, I digress. Let's see. I'm still waiting for compensation here on this one. We're going to continue to wait. Maybe somebody else has it. I'm going to check my phone. All right. We'll come back and check on that compensation here in a bit. But got another super chat. Let's get to that. John Cedillo, stand up. You are the newest member of the MOBB mob. You know what to do. Open your arms wide and welcome our guy John to the mob. Welcome to the squad. John Cedillo, glad to have you on board. My guy John, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, they signed Diggs, Bland, and traded for Clark, along with moving Micah just to turn around and need edge anyways. Right. With Williams, it's a move for the future. I agree. And it helps you now, right? Like, it's going to help your defense now, right? It's going to help your defense now. But it's more for when you get guys back healthy next year, you add in the draft next year, you get DeMarvion Overshown fully healthy, full offseason. Hopefully he stays healthy. And now you've got all of these pieces. And then the defense could turn into something for real, right? But you got it. But here's the key to all of this, John, and you know it as well as I do. You got to get Diggs back fully healthy, and he's got to be good because he wasn't good this season. He hasn't been good this season, right? So you got to get him fully healthy, and he's got to be good again because he's not good right now. Bland is bland, right? He's fine. He's healthy now. He's just not very good. And I've said this. He's a dynamic corner when it comes to taking the football away. He's got elite ball skills, but as a cover corner, he's basic. So I still think that you got some issues in the secondary that you have to find a way to get right. But ultimately, Williams, that's a great move. I can't front on that one. Quinnen Williams is a hell of a move for the Dallas Cowboys to help bolster their front and give them interior pressure, something that they don't currently have. You still got Oza Odighizuwa. Like, you've got a hell of a rotation now on that defensive front. You know what I mean? Like, you can do some things with that. So anyway, that's a needle moving move, John. That's a needle moving move. That right there is a needle moving move. Still want to see what the compensation is for that. All right, here we go. Cowboys receive Quinnen Williams. Jets receive a 2026 second, a 2027 first, and defensive tackle Mozzie Smith. So they don't give up a first rounder this year. They do, however, give up a first rounder next year, and they give up Mozzie Smith, which I don't think any Cowboys fan is going to lose sleep over trading Mozzie Smith. We knew that they were trying to move on from him. I just talked about him being a failed first-round pick. So Mozzie Smith was a healthy scratch last night. That told everybody what they needed to know about his future in Dallas. He was as good as gone last night when he was a healthy scratch. So they moved Mozzie Smith along with a 2026 pick in the upcoming draft in the spring, and a 2027 first-round pick in the draft in 27. So, okay, 2 picks, second rounder in next year's draft, first rounder the year after, and then Mozzie Smith is what the Cowboys give up for Quinnen Williams. That's a good haul for the Jets. It's a good haul. I would have, and depending on how you feel about this year's draft versus the draft after, Dallas is trying to do, and I don't blame them for this. And if I'm the Jets, I want nothing to do with the 27 first round pick. I want my shit right now because I know Dallas is going to be ass this year. I want my shit right now. Dallas is banking on being good in 2027. You can have my first round pick next year, right? You see what's going on here, right? You can have my first round pick next year because I already know I'm gonna be ass this year, so I want to hold on to all my shit this year, right? So you can have my first round pick next year, right? 2027, the following draft, because I expect to be good in 2027. That's gonna be the 28th, 29th pick in the draft, right? That's in their mind. We're gonna win the Super Bowl in 2027. That's the 32nd pick in the draft. Everybody thinks that when they make a deal like this. Push that shit out as far as you can. We're going to be good. So I ain't worried about it. I know Dallas is going to be ass this year. All right. At best, 8-1. I don't even know if they make it to that. They already have 5 losses, right? With 8 games left. Yeah. The chances are they're going to lose more than 3 games the remainder of the season. So I want your pick this year. I want your first round pick this year. Yes. I want your first round pick this year. So I feel like Dallas got away with that one. But a second, a first, and Mozzie Smith is a pretty good haul for Quinnen Williams. You just get it. If we strip it down to its essentials, a first, a second, and a player, a former first round pick that you can, experiment with, see if you can get anything out of him. If not, you don't care. It's no skin off your back, right? Either Mozzie Smith pans out or you move on from him. It's not a big deal. And the first and the second round pick is exactly what you were looking to get for Quinnen Williams' services. You were just one off. What you got for Sauce Gardner, right? You got 2 1s and a former second round pick. You got a 1 and a 2 in a former first round pick. So close, not quite, but the Jets are killing the shit. I'll just say that. Now the Jets have 2 first round picks and 2 second round picks in next year's draft. Again, if you're trying to fast track getting good, that's how you do it with draft capital, right? Now you got to hit. Doesn't do you any good to have all these picks if you're not hitting on guys. You can have 7 picks in the first 2 rounds, but if you're whiffing on 5 or 6 of them, doesn't make a difference. So you got to hit on them shits. So, I think that's a good haul for the Jets. I think the Jets did really well for themselves getting an additional pick, because I thought it would be a pick and a player, like a first rounder. That was standard operating procedure. You were going to get a first-round pick for Quinnen Williams. The question was, what was attached to it? I thought a pick, maybe a day 3 pick, like a 4th or 5th, and then you could attach a player like a Mozzie Smith, right? They got a 1st, a 2nd, and a Mozzie Smith. So, again, I think Darren Mogi is killing it with the Jets right now in terms of, hey, look, we're not good. We got a bunch of guys here that the league holds in high regard. They're not helping us win a damn thing. And the Jets defensively this year, they weren't good. Like, what are we talking about? Right? What are we talking about? Quinnen Williams, what has he done this season? And again, a new environment might spark this kid. You know, same with Sauce Gardner. You're playing on a bad team, that can affect your play, right? So I don't want to sit here and act like, but I just know the Jets defense has regressed. Big time. It has regressed. Quinnen Williams has 1 sack this season. 1 sack. So it's not like he's out here setting the world on fire. But again, as I've mentioned, sometimes when you play in a bad situation and it just affects how you play on the field. Like when the situation is bad and you can't see any way of it getting better, sometimes, you know, and look, not everybody is affected by their situation. Like Max Crosby, it doesn't matter how bad the Raiders are. He's playing at 150 miles per hour on every single snap that he's on the field. He doesn't give a shit. They could be 0-15. Max Crosby's out there playing like they're 15-0. But anyway, I digress. So, let's get to, let me get back to Schefter, see if there are any more. So this is the Jets. So now we're looking at the Jets draft capital. I just talked about how much draft capital the Jets have acquired. This is what the Jets look like over the next 2 drafts. First round pick of their own in 2026, along with the first round pick from Indy in the Sauce Gardner trade, a second round pick of their own, which is going to be extremely high, and then a second round pick from Dallas, which is, I think, also going to be relatively high. You're talking about in 2026, they're going to have 4 picks, more likely than not, in the top 50. Because Dallas is going to end up with the 17th, 18th pick in the draft, 16th pick in the draft, something like that, right? So 48th pick, you know, 49th pick in the draft, something along those lines is where that pick will land for Dallas, which will be the Jets pick. So you're going to have the number 1 pick in the draft potentially, the number 33 pick, 33, 34. I don't know if they do a coin flip if they have the same record as someone and they have to swap places with them in the second round, but they may have the 33rd pick, 34th pick, somewhere along those lines. Indy's pick is going to be somewhere in that neighborhood, probably 26, 25th, 26. I can't see them getting out of the divisional round. They might end up with the number 1 seed in the conference. I doubt that. They're probably going to lose in wild card weekend, depending on who they play, Indianapolis. So they'll end up with the 23rd, 24th, you know, pick somewhere in that neighborhood, 25th, no more than that. And then they'll have another pick, 7 picks, 7, 8 picks later. And then they'll have Dallas's pick, you know, 10, 13 picks later. Like, that's cooking right there with grease, with fish grease. That's cooking right there. Then the next year, they've got their first round pick. They're still going to stink by then, right? They'll have Dallas's first round pick, and Dallas thinks they're going to be good, but anything could happen. You know, Commanders fans didn't think we'd suck this year, right? You never think you're going to suck until you suck, right? Until injuries suck the life out of you, and all of a sudden, Dallas fans know this all too well. They've had seasons where Dak Prescott goes down, and all of a sudden, they're not any good. And you weren't predicting that when you made a trade. And then you got the Indy first round pick. They got 3 first round picks in 2027. 3 of them. Jesus. Woo! That is some good living right there if you're the Jets. Darren Mogi said, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to build this thing the way I want to build it. Well, he's given himself one hell of a foundation. Now you got to go nail these picks is what you got to go do. You got to go nail these picks. It's one thing to have them. It's what you do with them that ultimately determines if all of this was worth it or not. But you got the draft capital here, man. You got 7 picks in the next 2 drafts total. 7 picks in the first 8. I'm assuming the Jets have their second round pick in 2027. You got 8 picks in the first, I'd say 50 picks. So in the next 2 drafts combined, you got 8 picks in the top 50 in the next 2 drafts combined. You got to do damage, man. You got to do damage. You got to do damage. All right. So let's take a trip around, see if there's anything else out here. I'm just taking a look. Tom Pelissaro, Jeremy Fowler. Just taking a look at some of these other places and seeing if there's anything else here. Mike Garafolo. Reputable guys. This is not the time. Breece Hall just tweeted out 47 seconds ago, ... He probably thinks he's next. He probably thinks he's next. He probably thinks he's next. He's like, shit. He's got, you would attach the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air meme to him, right? Where you walk around the room, the empty room, and you're looking around like, damn, this is really happening. Everything's gone, right? This is it. That's pretty much where Breece Hall is right now. And he's looking around like, all my homies gone. I must be next. Him, Alvin Kamara, I think is available from, I mean, if you're into that kind of thing, you know, he's an aging running back that still has value. But again, if you're trading for Alvin Kamara, it's not going to cost you a lot, first and foremost. But you better be in a position to win a Super Bowl. Like, I know the Chiefs don't need him, but that's the kind of team that could use an Alvin Kamara, right? A team like Kansas City. Let's see if there's another team that could use him. I've heard the Steelers thrown out there. I don't think they got a Kenneth Gainwell already. They throw the ball to Jalen Warren a ton too. I don't think Alvin Kamara, and they drafted a rookie last year out of Iowa. I don't think you need Alvin Kamara. Trying to think of a team that's competing right now, but their running back position is basic, and they don't have a pass catching running back out of the backfield. See. I think San Francisco would be interesting, right? Obviously, you got you have Christian McCaffrey, and you traded for Brian Robinson Jr. already. But if anything would happen to Christian McCaffrey, having a guy like Alvin Kamara would give you that same type of threat, especially pass catching wise, right? Which they rely so heavily on Christian McCaffrey catching a football. That'd be an interesting spot for him. But again, at his age, at this stage of his career, you don't want him taking on a whole lot of, you know, carries and touches anyway. So that wouldn't be a bad spot. And you would take some of the load off of Christian McCaffrey as well. Again, I don't know what everybody's, you know, situation would be. I think, you know, who else would be really interesting for a guy like that? Tampa Bay would be really interesting. Now, I know they have a guy that pretty much is him in flesh, in Bucky Irving. But Bucky did get hurt. And then You still have Rashad White. Rashad White has been banged up a little bit this year. I wouldn't be opposed, but again, would they trade him in division? Probably not. Right? Probably not. And if you're Tampa, you probably feel good about the guys you already have. That'd be a good spot for him, though. Tampa Bay would be. You know what would be a really good spot for Alvin Kamara? New England, right? You lost Antonio Gibson, who was that, real. They still got Travion Henderson, right? Like, he should be able to do everything Alvin Kamara can do. I don't know if Henderson is as skilled a runner, like a natural running back. But if you're going to throw the ball to a running back, I've seen Travion Henderson drop the football too. I'd like to see him go somewhere like New England. They probably feel like they got a shot to do something this year. Breece Hall is interesting because that's a bell cow. That's a starting NFL running back. Like, you're not like Kamara at this point of his career. Like, you bringing him in and he's a secondary back. Like, you bring in a Breece Hall, and that's the dude you handing the football off to 18 to 23 times. And you can throw it to him out of the backfield another 5 times. He's legit. Is there an NFL team that's in the mix right now whose running game is lackluster? I just brought up Kansas City. They just don't run it enough for me. But Breece Hall would be perfect in Kansas City. Who's afraid of Kareem Hunt? Raise your hand if you're afraid of Kareem Hunt. Who the hell gives a shit that they just brought back Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Like, that's not a needle mover, right? Isaiah Pacheco just got hurt, but even when he's healthy, he hasn't been the same guy, right? Breece Hall could unlock Kansas City. That's all I'm saying. But that would be a great place because he goes straight to the front of the line. He goes straight to the top of the line. But if I'm Kansas City, I'm probably not trying to give up what the Jets are asking for Breece Hall. Because if I'm the Jets, I probably want a second-round pick for Breece Hall. I think ultimately the going rate for him is a third-round pick. If somehow, and I said this about Rashid Shaheed, if somehow you're able to get him for a 4th and a 5th, or 4th and a 6th, or something like that, that's a hell of a steal. If I'm the Jets, though, I'm asking for somebody said Kamara to the Broncos, or Kamara to the Broncos. That would be reuniting him with Sean Payton. If I'm Sean Payton, you know what I would do? I would go get Taysom Hill. I'm gonna go get my boy Taysom Hill, so I can go do all the shit that I used to do with Taysom Hill. That'll help unlock that offense some more. You can do some trick plays with him and Bo Nix. I go get, if I were going to get somebody, because I think they got enough back. That's why they got RJ Harvey, right? RJ Harvey can do everything that Alvin Kamara can do. And they like RJ. RJ just caught a touchdown pass against the Texans last week. They're getting him the football more. You still have J.K. Dobbins. I don't think they need Alvin Kamara. I would go get Taysom Hill, though. I would go get Taysom Hill. That's what I would do if I were Sean Payton. It shouldn't cost you a lot to go get Taysom Hill. Shouldn't cost you a lot at all. All right. All right, so we got some more information on the Cowboys trade. So, per Schefter, the trade terms, the Jets get the higher of the Cowboys' 2 first-round picks in 27, their own or Green Bay. So they did the right thing there, right? Making sure that they come away with the higher of the 2 picks. That was something that I wondered, like, are you getting their pick or Green Bay's pick? And they said, doesn't matter. Whichever one of them is higher, that's the one I want. Good move on their part. This year, if you would have got the 2026 pick, you would have been like, hey, I want your pick. Or you could have just said the same thing, whichever one is higher. I think that's the best way to do it. Instead of pigeonholing yourself and having some crazy shit happen, just say, whichever one is highest, that's the one I want. So that's the way to do it. That's the way to go about the business right there. So that's a great move on the part of the Jets. They're killing it right now. The biggest winners today isn't a team chasing a chip. It's the Jets. They're the biggest winner today. They're not going anywhere. They know they're not going anywhere. And they leaned into their fire sale. They leaned into a we suck ass. Let's start over and build this thing up from the ground, right? Nobody won more today than the Jets, personally. No one won more today than the New York Jets. Somebody said Taysom Hill is 35. So, what's your point? He's still, I saw him have a run on Sunday for like 30 yards. He's still running people over. He's still a guy that can throw the football from the quarterback position, but it's really like a Swiss Army knife, H-back, tight end, quarterback, running back, all that shit. He's still all of that. So you get into the red zone, you can do so many creative things with him. Like Peyton unlocked him. I don't care that he's 35 years old. You're only going to use him so many times a game, and you can get him probably for a 7th round pick right now from the Saints. Like, they're not holding on. They're not hoarding him. Trade a 7th round pick and get him. He just gives you more options. Why not if I'm Sean Payton? Reedy Davis, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, LT, with a healthy next year, who do you not resign next year of the old guys? I'm not resigning any of them. This was a wake-up call to Washington that you have to get younger. You have to get younger. So I don't want Bobby Wagner back. I don't want Zach Ertz back. I don't want Von Miller back. You know, they need to get rid of Preston Smith right now. I mean, he's not going to be back next year anyway. Austin Eckler is done. This was the last year of his deal anyway, and then he got injured. Like, none of these guys are coming back. Dietrich Wise probably won't be back next year, right? I think he signed a 1-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. Like, none of these older guys are going to be back next year, nor should they be, right? Marshawn Lattimore had another year left on his deal. I think they're going to go ahead and get out of that. They have no guaranteed money on his contract next year. They can get out of his deal. They're probably going to release him and be done with that situation. Like, it is what it is. So, at the end of the day, none of the old stuff works the way that we need it to anymore. And again, Wagner was great for us in year 1. Ertz was great for us in year 1. When you're trying to build this thing and set the culture, you need veterans in here to show the young guys how to do it. They did that in year 1. And unfortunately, in year 2, we didn't get what we got in year 1, but we shouldn't have anticipated that we would, right? We shouldn't have anticipated that we would. So, those guys aren't coming back. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, all the other older guys are under contract for next year. Though, like Will Harris, under contract. Laramie Tunzel, under contract. And I think you're going to try to get an extension done with him. All right. I think Jeremy Reeves, I don't know how old he is, but he's got to be approaching 30 here. They signed to a 2-year extension, right? Or they added another year to his deal that they just signed. So he's under contract. Like, most of the guys that are worth anything are back next year. The ones that aren't are going to be gone, and they should be. So, won't be too many of them back next year. Won't be too many of them that come back next year. All right. All right. Let's I'm gonna go ahead and refresh Schefter to see if we got any more trades or any more updates on any trades that have already happened. Gonna search around too, just to see if there are any more like rumors that are circulating. So Jordan Schultz says Jets are trying to make another move right now. This was 10 minutes ago. Not sure if it gets done, but they're trying. They're trying to move Breece Hall. That's what that sounds like. They're trying to move Breece Hall. And it feels like it's going to get done. The question is where? Where does Breece Hall make sense? I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of all the competing teams right now where he would be a great fit. Like, I think of Breece Hall, he needs to go somewhere like Arizona, right? But they're not in the mix. You know what I'm saying? Like if Arizona were 5-3 right now instead of 3-5, he'd be perfect for Arizona, right? They lost both of their running backs. They need a bell cow. He'd be perfect there. I don't really, I can't think of anywhere where I say, man, that's a Breece Hall fit right there. I can't think of anybody off the top of the dome. You know where it would be a great fit. And again, at this point, they're bottlenecked because of all their injuries up front. He'd be a great fit in LA with the Chargers because they already lost Najee Harris. It was supposed to be a 1-2 punch with Najee Harris and Omarion Hampton. They already lost Najee for the season. Omarion's been out with an injury. Breece could go in there, be a number one back essentially, and Omarion could come back and you could go 1-2 because they want to run the football a lot. You know, Harbaugh wants to run the football. That would be a great place for him. I've already said Kansas City is a place I would like. AFC West seems ripe between the Chiefs and the Chargers. That seems like the two best spots for him. Buffalo relies so much on, they need a receiver. Like they need a receiver. I wouldn't be spending any real draft capital on anything but a receiver if I'm Buffalo. If I were going to do something, but they rely so heavily on why am I blanking on my man's name? Shucks. James Cook. They rely so heavily on James Cook that I could see a scenario where you would want to have a better backup option should something happen to him, because they really don't. But that's not something you need to do. Chargers and Chiefs are the two best places for him. But again, the Chargers, it doesn't make sense from this standpoint. Who's blocking for him? He'd just be going from one disastrous, situation behind an offensive line that's, been mid this season to another one. I don't think that's a great use of your resources if you're the Chargers, because of your, now if you still had Rashawn Slater, Mekhi Becton could stay healthy, and you had Joe Alt, and you only just lost Najee Harris, I'd say go after him. It'd make a ton of sense. But it really doesn't right now, per se, because of all of the injuries that they've suffered up front on the offensive line. So I wouldn't do that. All right, so I'll just tell you. Let's take a look at this. This is a little rumor here. Not that this is surprising to any of us, right? But this is from Jordan Schultz. He says, breaking, Jets running back Breece Hall wants to be traded, I'm told. A little over an hour until the deadline, but Breece, quote, wants to be out, close quote. So they're trying their hardest to get this guy out of there. I told you what he tweeted out about 15 minutes ago, ... After seeing Quinnen Williams get traded, after seeing Sauce Gardner get traded, he wants to be traded too. This team sucks. He knows that there's no future there. They're rebuilding. He doesn't want to be a part of that. And he wants to go somewhere where he could probably get paid. They're probably not going to pay him. He wants out. The question is, you're a running back, bro. And in this league where running backs aren't valued the way that they should be, are you going to find a team willing to give up what the Jets are asking for and that are going to be willing to pay you? Because again, if I'm trading for Breece Hall, I'm not trading for a 2-month rental. I want a guy that's going to be here. He's still young. Yeah, he's had one major injury in his NFL career, but he's still explosive. He's still dynamic. You can throw it to him. He can catch it out of the backfield. He's a dynamic runner. The question is, can you find a team that's willing to give you proper compensation? Because if you're the Jets, again, I said this earlier, you don't have to do anything. You can let Breece Hall leave in the offseason, and depending on how active you are in free agency, you're going to get a third-round compensatory pick depending on, how many guys leave in free agency and the equation that they put together. But he's going to get I would think a reasonable deal. We've seen running backs get paid over the last couple of years in the offseason. He's among that group. Like, he's just as good, if not better, than a DeAndre Swift, and he got paid a couple of off seasons ago. I think he's right up there with the Josh Jacobs and some of those guys of the world, where he can be that impactful. You get him on the right team. So, if I'm the Jets, I'm not going to give him away. I'm not giving him away. I am not giving him away. So let's refresh Jordan before we move on. Let's refresh him. All right, so nothing here. He just still talking about Breece. Let's go back to let's check Jeremy Fowler. We'll just run the gamut real quick. Spotlight on the Jets in the final 75 minutes of the deadline after two massive deals. Teams say New York wants a second-rounder for Jermaine Johnson, who has expected to stay with the team. So Jets are completely selling here. The Jets said, hey, Jermaine Johnson is available. Breece Hall is available. Hey, hit my line if you need something. Hit my line if you need something. So they are selling any and everything, are the New York Jets. That's interesting. Okay. I did not think he would be available, but Jermaine Johnson is available as well. But again, and I have to continue to remind myself of this. You got a new GM in there. He did not draft Jermaine Johnson. He did not draft Sauce Gardner. He did not draft Quinnen Williams. He did not draft Breece Hall. These are not his guys. We suck with these guys. These are not my guys, and we suck. I'm just going to move on from them so I can get my guys in here, so I can create my image of what I think this team is supposed to look like. Bring it to life. Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. So we're approaching an hour left, almost at the 3 o'clock hour. Trade deadline ends at 4 o'clock East time. So we'll see if anything else happens. I'm going to continue to check social media, make sure that nothing happens. I got my phone in front of me. I got X in front of me. All right. So how many trades are we up to now? Let's go back to Schefter and count how many trades we're up to now. So let's take a look. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Then you add in the Shaheed trade. You add in the Sauce Gardner trade. That's 17. You add in the Quinnen Williams trade. That's 18. So we're up to 18 trades between last month and this month for the trade deadline. Remember, Schefter set the number at 15 and he took the under. And clearly, did we add in the Joe Tryon Shoyinka trade to that list? I don't think we did. So that would make it 19. The Joe Tryon Shoyinka trade makes it 19. So, all right. So nothing new here. Let's check Jordan Schultz. Nothing new there. Let's check Jeremy Fowler. Nothing new there. All right. So we got nothing new. So we'll keep it pushing right now. And we'll continue to check as we get closer and closer to the end of the trade deadline. So right now, still available, Reek Woolen at the cornerback position. Reek Woolen of the Seahawks, Cam Taylor-Britt of the Cincinnati Bengals. At receiver, I don't know if Brian Thomas Jr. is truly available or not, but you should be making a phone call. I don't know if Chris Olave is truly available, but you should be making a phone call, seeing that the Saints are willing to ship off. The word out on the street was that the Saints didn't want to trade Chris Olave. They were willing to trade Rashid Shaheed. They were not willing to trade Chris Olave. They want to re-sign him. I think you also have to take into consideration that Chris Olave, his brain has been scrambled so many times. Like how many more, hits can he take? They have put him in such a perilous state that I would be very skeptical and hesitant to trade for Chris Olave based off of the amount of concussions he's had. So that's something that I would be a little bit apprehensive about. So there's still Breece Hall at the running back position. There's still Alvin Kamara, if you're interested, at the running back position. So I do think that there are some interesting players that can help a team. The Jets are willing to move on from Jermaine Johnson for the right price. As Jeremy Fowler noted, they were looking for a second-round pick. If that is to take place, I don't know if anybody's willing to give that up for Jermaine Johnson, but it's another guy that potentially could help a team that thinks they've got a shot to do something this season. So a lot of intrigue so let's talk about some teams that we feel like need to do something. Like, are they, if they don't do anything, are they okay? So let's start with the Bills. Big win over the Chiefs on Sunday. Puts them in the position to be, look, they're fighting for their life in their division. Like, they're still a half game behind the Patriots, right? Bills are 6-2. They've had a bye already. The Patriots have not had a bye. They're 7-2. And they've already lost to the Patriots at home. So the Bills are going to have to go to New England to get that win back if they are to try to win this division, assuming that the Patriots continue to play the type of football that they've played to get off to such a fast start. That said, in those two losses that we've seen from Buffalo, easily could have been 3 or 4, right? Should have lost to Baltimore in week 1. We've seen a team that has struggled, right, with not having a number 1 wide receiver. We feel like we're having this discussion about Buffalo every single year, right? They've got they got 22 twos, right? Keon Coleman is a number 2 receiver at best. Khalil Shakir is a number 2 receiver at best. Look, their strength right now is their tight end position, to be honest with you. Like, Dawson Knox is a really solid, like, one of the best number 2 tight ends in football. Dalton Kincaid is a legitimate number 1 tight end threat. and he's really their de facto number one wide receiver. So when you look at all of the weapons, the totality of what Buffalo has, it's a good group around Josh Allen, but nothing elite there that scares you at the receiver position, in particular between Curtis Samuel and Elijah Moore. Like, these are the receivers that they're putting on the Shavers. These are the receivers they're putting on the field. They need a number one, right? That could put them over the top. Are you willing to give up what it's going to take to get that guy? I don't know if I don't know if you're willing to give up what it would take. But that's a team that feels like it would be within reason for them to make a move, to go for it. Baltimore has made a lot of moves within the margin, nothing needle moving per se, but just a lot of moves that position them to try to make a run, right? Alohi Gilman, swapping him out for, or swapping out Adafe Owe for Alohi Gilman, right? Gilman's already had an impact, forcing a turnover. Going and getting Draymond Jones, shedding themselves of Jair Alexander. Like, they've made moves within the margin. Let's see. All right, so I my phone went off. I thought there was another trade. There isn't another trade. Jacksonville's already made a trade to bolster their wide receiving core, which I thought was a really good move on their part. The Seahawks right now, to me, are the biggest winner. If we're recapping what has gone down, for those of you who might have just gotten here, let's recap some of the day's big trades as we just passed the 3 o'clock hour. So just a shade under an hour left for the trade deadline. So let's go over some of the big moves of the day. So let's pull it up. And we start with Quinnen Williams. That's the last big trade that we've had. That's the last trade that we've had, honestly. Quinnen Williams to the Cowboys. Compensation there. Right here. Oh, no, that's not the compensation. So compensation right here. Cowboys get Quinnen Williams. Jets get a 2026 second-round pick, 27 first-round pick, and defensive tackle, former first-round pick, Mozzie Smith. He was a bust in Dallas. We'll see if he can reshape his career in New York. So big blockbuster deal there. That's not where the Jets stopped with the blockbuster deals. Here's the big trade of the day, the biggest trade of the day. Sauce Gardner, former all-pro cornerback in this league, former NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year, gets traded to the Indianapolis Colts for a 2026 first-round pick, a 2027 first-round pick, and former second-round pick in last year's 2024 NFL Draft, Adonai Mitchell, who had fallen out of the good graces of the Indianapolis Colts with the fumble before the end zone versus the Rams earlier this season that cost the Colts a football game. That is a hell of a haul for Sauce Gardner, who, similar to Quinnen Williams, has not played very well this season, has not been super impactful, has more penalties than he does big plays, hasn't really been that all-pro corner. And I feel like officials are targeting him. I really, truly believe the officials are targeting Sauce Gardner now. Anytime he puts his hands on anybody, they're throwing the flag. And you get a reputation around the league. We've seen it. We've seen guys that have a reputation where you breathe on a guy wrong and they're going to throw the flag. So another trade, the Browns send defensive end Joe Tryon-Shoyinka to the Bears along with the 7th-round pick in exchange for a 6th-round pick. So as Schefter spelled out here, the Bears lost Dio Odangbo to a season-ending Achilles injury on Sunday against the Bengals, and so they needed depth on that defensive line, and so they go out and they get Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. from Cleveland. This is, to me, the biggest winner that actually traded for somebody. A team, if you're talking about the biggest winner today, that's the Jets. But if you're talking about a team that actually acquired a player that thinks they got a chance to win, that are going all in, it's the New Orleans Saints for me. Saints traded for Rashid Shaheed. As you can see, the compensation here, a 2026 4th and 5th round pick to the Saints in exchange for Rashid Shaheed. This guy is the best deep threat in the NFL right now. Hands down. Best ball tracking skills. He's not a one-trick pony. He can do other things, but nobody does the deep ball better right now in the entire NFL than Rashid Shaheed, in my personal opinion. And so to add him to Cooper Kupp, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Arroyo, I forget the other tight end's name, K9, Charbonnet, and Sam Darnold playing the way that he's playing right now, and Torrey Horton at the rookie at the receiver position. They're loaded now, man. This is a dangerous Seattle Seahawks football team, adding Rashid Shaheed to the mix. Here's some other moves. Jacoby Meyers traded from the Las Vegas Raiders to the Jacksonville Jaguars in exchange for a 4th and a 6th round pick. So that happened. You see it right here. Raiders trading Jacoby Meyers to the Jacksonville Jaguars in exchange for a 4th and 6th round pick. I'm not sure. So here's something else to add. Multiple teams, including the Steelers and Jags, have shown interest in Meyers. So who becomes a free agent after his contract expires this season. So Steelers clearly are in the market for a receiver. Wonder if they try to do something and try to bolster their receiver position. Eagles traded for Jalen Phillips yesterday, 3rd round pick in exchange for Jalen Phillips to help their pass rush. Draymond Jones goes from Tennessee to Baltimore, I think, in exchange for a 5th round pick, if I'm not mistaken, 5th or 6th. I think it was a 5th rounder. Logan Wilson goes from Cincinnati to Dallas for a 6th round pick. That happened early this morning. And so these are some of the moves that have all happened today. A lot of movement. I think we're up to 18 trades total between last month and this month. So you're seeing a lot of activity in the NFL. And I've said this because so Schefter's now talking about the Jets' hidden benefits of their deal. Because of the state of the NFL, there are so many teams that are currently there are so many teams that feel like they got a shot to win a Super Bowl. You're willing to go in. Like, there used to be a time where, okay, I thought that was something else. There used to be a time where you knew you weren't getting out of the AFC because of Brady. And look, it still may be that way. The Chiefs can struggle all regular season and get to the postseason and then turn it on. We've seen them do that so many times. So it's not out of the realm of possibility for the Chiefs to, still but if the playoffs started today, and we haven't been able to say this for a very long time, we are heading into week 10. If the playoffs started today, the Kansas City Chiefs would not be a part of it. When's the last time we've been able to say that through 9 weeks of football going into week 10? So the Chiefs are vulnerable. The Chiefs are vulnerable. All right. Before we move on, let's get a word from our sponsor, Sleeper. Come back on the other side and we'll get back to business. Sleeper. Sleeper is the best way to experience and connect over sports together. It's a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat on games in real time with other users, get the fastest scores, blazing fast news and alerts right at your fingertips, play in fantasy leagues, and win real money on pick contests. So enjoy sports the way they were meant to, together. Download the #1 sports app today. Predict the hottest football stats like passing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and much more to cash in on your daily fantasy football skills. Use promo code LTN and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Sleeper. All right, so we're back. And I wanted to get back to the conversation of teams that maybe need to make a move. Pittsburgh feels like they're one of the teams at the top of the list that they really think they can compete. If you're all in with Aaron Rodgers this year, maybe you need to try to do something. Obviously, you don't want to give up too much more draft capital. You've already given up some to acquire DK Metcalf. I don't remember the specifics of that deal and if you gave up something. I don't remember if that deal happened before the draft or after the draft. If it happened before the draft, then more likely than not, they gave up the compensation in 2025's draft. If it happened after the draft, then they probably gave up 2026 compensation. So you got to be mindful of that kind of stuff too. Again, you got to make, if you're the Steelers, I don't know how much you're going to be able to do to help the team now. You wanted one of those fourth round type receivers that, fourth round pick where you give up a day 3 pick for a guy. You're not looking to go add a guy that's going to cost you a day 1 or 2 pick. You're just not in a position to do that. You wanted a Jacoby Meyers. He would have fit Pittsburgh perfectly. You wanted a Rashid Shaheed, or at least you should have. I don't know. They love washed up players in Pittsburgh. They love the oldie but goodies out there. Tomlin loves him a vet. How about, look, again, if I'm Pittsburgh, why not go get Deebo Samuel, right? You need something opposite of DK Metcalf. Why not go get you the Deebo Samuel or something, right? You got to start picking up the phone and calling some teams. Like Buffalo has plenty of guys that play like Deebo, so that wouldn't make sense. Curtis Samuel, Elijah Moore, all those guys kind of play like Deebo. They don't have the same build as him, but they play like him. The Steelers don't have anybody that resembles a Deebo Samuel, right? Why not go get someone like that? If you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you need to do something. You do not have enough. Rodgers is throwing the football to 16 different tight ends and DK Metcalf right now. Like, you have to do, and the running backs, obviously. You have to do something, I think, if you're Pittsburgh. You can't sit idle on your hands with the Ravens, starting to get their mojo back, feeling really good about their situation. You got to do something, feels like, if you're Pittsburgh. Buffalo, you'd like to do something. I don't think they feel compelled to force the issue. You would like to have added something. I would have loved to have seen them add a guy like Rashid Shaheed to that offense. Jacoby Meyers would have felt a bit redundant to me. He's a better version of Keon Coleman, but it seems like the same player. Buffalo could use a true deep threat. They don't have a guy that takes the top off of your defense, that gets vertical. Allen with a vertical threat would be so disgusting to watch. It would be so much fun. It would be disgusting, right? It would make him that much more dangerous. They don't have that guy, though. Think about their receiving core. Think about, there's a lot of quick hitters to, Khalil Shakir. It's a lot of, throws to the tight ends, up the seam, corner routes, that type of thing. A lot of gadget plays to guys like Elijah Moore and Curtis Samuel. They don't have anybody vertical, though. Like Keon Coleman is a guy they'll throw it too deep, but he's not beating you with speed. He's beating you with size, if anything. So that would have been a great addition for their team. And looking at the compensation, a 4th and a 5th, Buffalo could have definitely. I don't know anybody's draft situation compensation-wise. Like, what do you have available? I just know if they had it, that would have been a really good place for him. And a team like Buffalo could definitely use some more help. Trying to think of some more teams that are in the mix. I feel like the Rams, like, they just figure it out. They find ways. I feel like they could have used a corner. Like, if I'm the Rams, I would go get a Cam Taylor-Britt or a Reek Woolen and add them to the mix. I think that's the one position you can that the Rams are hurting at. I truly believe like they don't have like Kendrick is cool, right? I, I'm seeing Emmanuel Forbes out there way too much, and he might be solid for you, but between him and that might be something else that the Bills could look at is cornerback. But you know what? I saw Hairston make a play on Sunday, the first round pick out of Kentucky. You forget he's even there because I haven't really seen him all season long. They got Benford. I saw way too much of the veteran Trey White. And so I was worried, like, what's your depth look like? I'm seeing a lot of Trey White out here. But now Hairston's back, and you got Benford. I think they're going to be fine. But they've had a lot of injuries to their secondary, primarily the safety position. But Cole Bishop has stepped up. I think they're going to be fine. If anything, you'd add a receiver if you're Buffalo. And of the teams that are selling, the Saints still have some pieces. The Jets still have pieces that they're selling away. I've said I don't think anybody wants anything that the Commanders have, but if you're interested, the Commanders clearly have pieces that they should be looking to move. Cincinnati, they're in an interesting position. I don't think they think they're out of it. So I don't think they're trying to move on from pieces that they should be trying to move on from, because I think they feel like if we could just hang in there with Joe Flacco, but literally Joe Flacco has given you everything you could ask for. He's been just as good as Joe Burrow could have been, if not better, right? I think I saw something like over the last 3 weeks, Flacco has like 10 or 11 touchdown passes and like 1 or 2 interceptions. He just had his first 400-yard passing game of his career, and he almost threw for 500, and they still lost. So it doesn't matter if Joe Burrow comes back. You should be selling if you're Cincinnati. Anything that you have that somebody's calling about, you should be trying to sell it. But they're dumb. They've been a really mentally challenged organization for a very long time. So they don't get it. And instead of them maximizing this opportunity to move on from guys that either aren't a part of their future or not going to help them this year anyway, they're going to hang on to guys for no reason. So that's another team that you should be picking up the phone and contacting, because the Bengals have some stuff. Trying to think of any other teams that aren't very good that may have some items that are interesting. If I were a team, I don't know how you feel about Kayvon Thibodeau, but I'd call the Giants just to check in and see. You know, I don't love him, but, you know, why not check on Kayvon Thibodeau? They've got a wealth of edge rushers in New York. I don't know if they're going to re-sign him after this season. I'd check on him. I'd call the Atlanta Falcons and just, check the temperature on a Kyle Pitts, maybe, if I need a tight end, an athletic tight end, just to see, how they feel about him. Falcons probably still think they got a shot in their division. They don't, and some of these teams have to realize like where they are, like what's their reality. That also goes a long way in determining what's your reality. Like, you got to live in your truth. You're not a good team. If you're 3-5 right now and you don't have an elite quarterback and you're not waiting on someone to come in and save you, like, man, if we could just get to this point and this guy's coming back, we feel like we can go on a run. If you don't have one of those type players, like, what are we talking about? You're 3-5. You're more likely than not, and especially if you're 3-5, you're probably not winning your division. If you're 3-5 and you play in a garbage division and you got a shot, okay, I get it. But if you're 3-5 and the leader in your division, or you're 3-6, you're not going anywhere this year. You should be looking to move as many pieces as you can. So, Like Arizona, they're interesting. They look at their situation and they think to themselves, we're 2 or 3 plays away from being 5-3, not 3-5. So they're not looking to sell. But that's a team you could have picked up the phone and potentially called and seen if they were interested in moving 1 or 2 of their pieces. But they're not, because they still think they got a chance to be good this season. Right? So really interesting as we are now approaching the bottom of the hour. So 40 minutes roughly left in the trade deadline. Things have calmed down considerably. We're going to get one more push, like we always do, at the very end of. So, hey, Breece Hall out here trolling, man. So this is from Breece Hall, y'all. This is from Breece Hall. He really wants out. Hey, Breece Hall tripping. All right, so this is from Breece Hall on X. This was an hour ago. Oh man, Breece Hall is a damn fool, man. He definitely wants out. Bless his heart, man. I hope he gets his wish. I hope he gets his wish, man. This man is dying to get out of New York. And I don't know if it's gonna happen, but like I said, we might not see anything for the next 20 minutes, and then right before 4 o'clock, and then a little bit there after 4 o'clock. That's when you see these deals start to really start coming in again as teams try to beat the shot clock. So I'm going to assume that we won't see anything here for a little while. All right. So biggest upgrade today, I think there's a two-way tie. The Colts were really hurting at the cornerback position. So getting Sauce Gardner is an upgrade. How much of an upgrade, we'll find out. However, getting him and the Seahawks getting Shaheed, massive. Jets are your biggest winner of the day by far. Just the massive accumulation of draft picks. It's tremendous on the part of the Jets. The Cowboys have upgraded their roster with Quinnen Williams. I like the move that the Jags made to go get themselves a receiver that can come in and help. A guy that's a really good possession receiver. I don't think they had that. Like a guy you can trust on 3rd and 7. And even if he's in traffic, he's going to catch the football. And Jacoby Meyers, I think they lacked that. They were looking for that type of toughness out of Brian Thomas Jr., and it just isn't there for them. You're going to get that with Jacoby Meyers, which is why I think they traded for him. So that move makes a ton of sense. The Titans are a team. I talked about teams needing to acknowledge where they are. That's another team that should lean into the trade deadline, and if they have anything worth trading, they should look to move some of these pieces. Dolphins are another team that should lean into this trade deadline. They have already trading Jalen Phillips. If there's any other pieces that teams are interested in, Waddle is one that I would not trade if I were them. That'd be one of the few pieces that I would tell everyone is off limits. But I wouldn't trade Achane either. Those are the two that you can't have. Everything else, though, name a price, and I'll tell you if it's good enough, right? So there's certain teams where you look around, and I don't know if the Texans feel like that's where they are. Just looking at their division, where Indy is, what Jacksonville is, they're not catching up. This isn't a typical AFC South year where we're never out of it. We can come back, get hot, and win this thing at 10-7, 9-8. Colts already have 7 wins. Unless they have an epic meltdown, you're not catching them. And you still got to go through Jacksonville to get them. And I just don't see that happening. So I think the Texans are another interesting team right now. Again, I don't see, they're so young, they're so talented. I don't see them trying to get rid of stuff. But if I'm the Texans, Christian Kirk ain't done shit for me this year. He's been injured most of the year. He's finally healthy. But you got 2 young guys you drafted this year in Jalen Noel and what's the other one? Those 2 Iowa State receivers. Like, Christian Kirk can go. Like, if someone's looking for some veteran wide receiver help, hey, hit my line. You can have Christian Kirk, right? Like, you got to understand where you are in the pantheon of your conference, your division, and you got to live in your truth, right? So you got to give the young guys a chance to play and have more opportunities. So I'd look to move on from Christian Kirk if I could. I mean, no team may be interested in Christian Kirk. You're not going to get a lot for him, but you get something for him, right? So there's still a lot of quality players available that teams could be, interested in acquiring, but we'll see if anything transpires in this final. We're almost at the bottom of the hour. See if anything transpires in these final 30 minutes of the trade deadline. Schefter just tweeted this out. There have been 6 trades today, tied for the 3rd most on any trade deadline day going back to 1990. There were 10 trades on November 1st, 2022, and 8 trades on November 5th, 2024. Remember that we were very active last year. So I told you the trade deadline is starting to become the NBA now more so than ever before because teams feel like they got a shot to win, right? Teams feel like they got a shot to win. And so that's why you saw 8 trades last year. You're seeing 6 this year. I don't think we're done. I think you're going to see at least 1 more trade, possibly 2 more to tie last year's 8. Because teams think they got a shot. And why wouldn't they? This, like, at least last year, even though the Chiefs were winning games and we thought they were lucky and they were getting by, off of some fluky type stuff, it's still Mahomes, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's still Patrick Mahomes, and we know, fluke or not, once they get to the playoffs, Mahomes going to turn the shit up. We know that. So they were 14-2 last year. Or what were they? 15-2 last year, I think the Chiefs were. If I'm not mistaken. Like, they were still dominant, even though they weren't dominant. Once they got the number 1 seed, who thought anything other than the Chiefs were going to the Super Bowl? And we looked at the NFC and you're like, well, shit, Detroit, man. God damn. Detroit. That whole division was ridiculous. But Detroit was the one, right? There was none of that this year in either side. When Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts had the best record through 9 weeks of football, which they did, or 8 weeks of football contest, they had the best record. No one else was 7-1. That tells you all you need to know, man. Like, anybody can win the Super Bowl this year. That's the thing you love about football. More so than any other sport. More than basketball, more than baseball, where you have to win a series, and usually the better team wins a series. You just got to win a game. 1 game. That day. You can't tell the Seahawks they don't have a shot with Sam Darnold. You can't tell the Colts they don't have a shot with Daniel Jones. You can't tell the Rams they don't have a shot again with Matthew Stafford as long as he stays healthy. Shit, you can't even tell the 49ers right now that they don't have a shot with Mac Jones and or Brock Purdy. Like, this shit is wide open. You can't tell the Patriots that they can't win the Super Bowl with Drake May right now. You can't tell the Denver Broncos that they don't have a shot with Bo Nix. You can't. And that's the beauty of it right now. That's the beauty of it. So I don't think we're done yet. According to Schefter, this is the third most trades we've seen on trade deadline day. And I think we're going to, before it's all said and done, I think we're going to at least tie the second most trades on trade deadline day. Last year, 8 trades were made. That's the second highest. Right now, we're at 6 today, going back to 1990. I think we're going to have 2 more trades. And I think Breece Hall is going to be a part of one of them when it's all said and done. So, let's peruse around social media real quick. See if there's any... Okay. I'll talk about that later on. Commanders signed Treylon Burks to the active roster. Not a surprise with Luke McCaffrey going down. They got 3 spots available with Jaden going down, which you already know they're going to use that on Sam Hartman more likely than not, is my guess. You got a cornerback spot available. I think they already filled that one, if I'm not mistaken. And you got a receiver spot open. So not a surprise there. And look, this is a audition for Treylon Burks, right? I mean, now you got 8 games to prove that either you belong in the league or you belong back with the Commanders next year. So see what he does. He'll get an opportunity. So nothing there. All right, nothing there. Like I said, I don't think you're going to see anything until we get closer to 4 o'clock. That's when everybody's trying to get, deadline spur action. That's when everybody tries to get their last second deals off. Everybody waits till the last minute and then they fire off their deals. They get desperate and they try to get something done. And you usually see those deals come in at like 4:07. This one just got in under the shot clock. All right. Again, if I'm the Commanders, I'm a team out there that needs a receiver, I call the Commanders for Deebo Samuel. I'm calling the Texans for Christian Kirk. I'm calling the Titans for Calvin Ridley. I don't know if he's healthy or not right now, but these are the teams I'm dialing the phone, picking up the phone. And again, Deebo is inexpensive. That's the one that makes the most sense. I would assume same can be said for Christian Kirk. Shouldn't cost you a lot of money. Now, Calvin really got a pretty expensive deal. That's a guy that if you're looking, you're investing there. He's making a lot of money, right? But these are the types of phone calls that I'm making right now, trying to find an inexpensive, cost-friendly addition to my team. If I'm serious, Deebo Samuel can help your football team. He can help your football team. Christian Kirk hasn't been healthy for most of this year, so I don't know if he's ready to contribute at a high level, but I saw him on the field on Sunday versus the Denver Broncos, so that means he's healthy. If he's healthy and he's right, Christian Kirk can help your football team. So you need defensive line help. Again, you should be calling the Commanders. Daron Payne. You need offensive line help. You should be calling the Commanders. Andrew Wiley, Nick Allegretti, right? You need help. You should be calling these teams that are 3-5, 3-6, 2-5, 2-6, 2-7. Call these teams up. The Dolphins stink. Call them up. See what they're willing to part ways with. So the Falcons, they're 3-5. Like, they're not a good team. And they'll convince themselves that we make a play here against New England, we make a play there, and against Tampa Bay in week 1, and we could be 5-3, but you're not. Okay, you're not. You're 3-5. You're not well coached. You're not going to win your division. Got to acknowledge where you are, who you are, and I'm picking up the phone, right? Picking up the phone. All right. So continuing to peruse around socials. No activity right now, which is to be expected. This is when it gets dead. It's going to heat up once more, one final time, right before this thing is over. It's going to heat up one more time. All right. Okay, so nothing on social media right now. Nothing in the comment section. I am definitely in the front of the Commander's furniture store asking if you need some help. I'm begging over here, bro. I'm that worrisome ass associate that you like, I'm just looking. Hey man, just let me know if you need anything, right? But I don't go too far. And every time you start looking at some shit, I walk around like, that's a pretty nice it's a pretty nice love seat right there, man. And we got a pretty good deal on them. We got some really good pricing options. And you're like, bro, I'm just looking, man. Just let me know if you need something. I'll be right over here. Hey, I'm definitely in the front of the furniture store trying to pawn off some of this stuff, man. Not that it's helping at all, but let me know if you need something. I'll be right over there, right? Can I help you with anything in particular? No, you're just looking? Okay. My name's Louie. I'll be right over there. If you need anything, just give me a holler, right? That's basically where I am right now. But I see the comments. I'm good, my man. I'm pretty sure you are. I'm pretty sure you are. Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm just looking, bro. I'm just looking. They're going to walk out of the store, aren't they? Yeah, they're going to walk out of the store. They don't want anything in here. I know they don't want anything from this store. They're going to walk out of the store. Of course they are. Such is life as a Commanders fan right now. But doesn't stop me from trying to sell, right? Doesn't stop me from trying to make a sale. But they don't want anything at this store. All right. So this from Jordan Schultz. Like, and this is what teams should be doing, right? You setting off everything else. Jordan Schultz says teams have called. Jets are not interested in trading wide receiver Garrett Wilson per sources. That should happen. I just said that. It doesn't cost you anything to make a phone call. The worst they can tell you is no, right? The worst they can tell you is no. Those teams calling the Jets should have been the Bills and the Steelers. Those are two teams that probably feel like they got a shot. Aaron Rodgers can vouch for Garrett Wilson and say, no, that young fella is like that. You should go get him. And again, I would love to see Josh Allen. Now they're not trading they're not trading Garrett Wilson to the Bills in their own division. So you could scrap that. It'd have to be somewhere other than the AFC East, preferably out of the conference altogether. But as we've seen here of late, teams don't give a shit about trading a player out of conference. Just get him out of the division, right? We saw the Cowboys trade Micah Parsons in the conference. We saw the Saints trade Rashid Shaheed in the conference to the Seahawks. Like, teams don't give a shit. The Raiders just traded Jacoby Meyers in the conference to the Jaguars. The Colts just acquired Sauce Gardner in conference from the Jets. Teams don't give a shit about in conference or not, just out of the division, right? Just out of the division is all that really matters at this point. So we'll keep perusing the interweb for any tidbits. All right. So this is from Rich Cimini, who covers the Jets for ESPN. And this is from Sauce Gardner's perspective. He got blindsided by this trade. Sauce Gardner, this is from at Rich Cimini, who covers the Jets for ESPN. He says, Sauce Gardner was stunned by the trade per his brother and agent, Alante Gardner, who told me he learned of the deal around 12:15 in a call from the Jets. They had no inkling before that. He said, Sauce has no negative feelings towards the Jets. He understands it's a business. Alante said, Sauce did get a call from Aaron Glenn. So just a little insight as to how that thing came together. Like, he had no idea he was being shopped. That's how you're supposed to do it. Like, that's what the Commanders were trying to do this summer with Brian Robinson Jr. And then, speaking of Jordan Schultz, he let the cat out of the bag. And all of a sudden, Brian Robinson Jr. was like, well, shit, if y'all trying to move me, get me the hell out of here. I don't want to be here. So that's what you do. You do it behind closed doors. It should be a secret. Nobody should really know about the shit. And then when it happens, everybody's caught off guard, including the person being traded. But you do call him and let him know, which is what they did, because the news of that trade didn't come out until well after 1 o'clock. He found out at 12:15. So they already knew the trade had happened before it got out to the masses. However, still, that's how you do it, right? You don't tell a guy, or you don't make it public information that you're trying to shop a guy, because it's awkward if it doesn't get done. If you don't move that player and you tried feverishly to move him, how am I supposed to feel about that, right? Now I feel some type of way. So it is important to understand how to move in business. And the Jets did it the right way. And like I said, the biggest winner of today, by far and away, are the New York Jets. So as we continue to monitor social media and everything going on, now we are just a shade under 15 minutes left. Now I expect activity to start to ramp back up. Now, we might not find out about this. I'm going to hang around with y'all until about 4:15, just to give that 4 o'clock hour some time to air out and see if some, last minute deals get done. But ultimately, I expect at least one more trade. I think there's going to be 2 more trades that get done before it's all said and done. But we'll see if that transpires or not. I think you're going to see these conversations heating up now. All right, Schefter just told us something that we already knew. All right, he just tweeted out, as expected, Eagles wide receiver A.J. Brown has not been and will not be traded by today's deadline. The Eagles were never interested in trading A.J. Brown. I don't think that needed to be said, but okay, thank you for that information, Captain Obvious. Like, I don't think anybody expected to wake up today or at any point today and see A.J. Brown was traded by the Eagles. If they have any aspirations of winning the Super Bowl, they know they need A.J. Brown. And they not only need A.J. Brown, they need an engaged A.J. Brown. So that's not a surprise that A.J. Brown wasn't traded today. He's not. He was never getting traded. Not in my mind, at least. So now in the offseason, totally different discussion, right? All bets are off. We know that Mike Vrabel loves him some A.J. Brown. So I could definitely see a scenario in which maybe in the offseason something gets done, but they're trying to repeat as Super Bowl champs. There's no way you trade A.J. Brown if you're trying to win the Super Bowl again. So see if there's any other information. Nothing there. We're going to check Jeremy Fowler again. We are going to check Jordan Schultz. All right. And we'll go back to Schefter. And we're just gonna hang out at Schefter, probably for the duration. Check my phone just to make sure nothing is popped. All right, nothing there. So we'll see what happens. We are now 15 minutes out from 4 o'clock on the East Coast. So 15 minutes left for the trade deadline. And I still expect Breece Hall to get moved. But I've said this all day today with Breece Hall. I've said this all day today that what are the Jets asking for? We found out that they're asking for a 2nd-round pick for Jermaine Johnson. What are they asking for Breece Hall? And then who actually needs a bell cow running back? Like, Breece Hall is a guy you trade for and you use. You're not bringing him in to be, second fiddle to anyone or part of a platoon. Like, yeah, you can have another back that you trust that you can bring in certain instances, but Breece Hall is a guy that should touch it 20 times a game. And if you're not going to utilize him in that way, and by the way, you got to be so willing to give up whatever they're asking for that you're going to re-sign him too. Remember, he's on the final year of his rookie contract. So if you're going to go get Breece Hall, you have to be prepared to re-sign him, 1, and 2, you got to be ready to utilize him properly. And how many teams are actually in that position? Not many. All right, not many teams. Again, Chargers, Chiefs are the 2 that are at the top of my list. Everybody else that's in the mix at the running in the Super Bowl chase, they have running backs already. They're not really looking for a massive upgrade at the running back position. So Breece Hall doesn't make a ton of sense for any of those teams that are in search of a Super Bowl. So can't really see anything happening from that standpoint. Let's see. Yeah, nothing popping off as we're approaching the final 10 minutes of the trade deadline. Very active day, though. If nothing else happens, I'm still going to assume that something will. But if nothing else happens, 6 trades today, like Adam Schefter outlined, 3rd most in NFL history for a trade deadline day. So it is a very active day, and we got some bombshells. Like Sauce Gardner didn't even know he was getting traded, didn't even know he was on the block. And to see him go was pretty, jarring. We knew that the Jets would be sellers, didn't know who they would really be willing to sell off, but you always got to keep in mind who the GM is and, what the situation is. And Darren Mogi came on board this offseason, and he's looking to clean house, and he's taking an opportunity to do it. He gave this group that they inherited a chance this season, right? Gave him a chance. Let's see what you got. We gave you a quarterback, albeit a very limited one. We gave you a quarterback, and the defense is supposed to be the heart and soul of this team, right? So keep us in games, and let's see if we can win some games, and let's see what we got. And in week 1, Justin Fields and that Jets offense, up until week number 8, when they won their first game, played their best game of the season in week 1 against the Steelers, and still wasn't good enough because the defense gave up too many points. So they just said, all right, we're 1-7. We're not very good. And these aren't our guys. So let's start shipping these dudes out one by one. So Let's see if we got any more action, any more movement. Nothing there, nothing there, and nothing there. So still awaiting some more movement. We are now 10 minutes away from 4 o'clock on the East Coast, which means that the trade deadline is almost upon us. Anxious to see if there's any more movements with the trade deadline before it's all said and done. I still think there's at least 1 or 2 more deals in the tuck. But we'll see if anything gets done prior to the deadline. I think last year we had one last deal after 4 o'clock. So I'm expecting that to be the case again this year. But again, we will see if anything transpires. Usually deadline spur action, and a lot of teams are trying to get something done. Got to get it in before the 4 o'clock deadline. If you're going to move, you got to move now. This is when things start to heat up a bit. So fully expect at least one more deal. Let's see if we get it. So the Jets now like, look, man, everybody like, yo. So this is Quincy Williams, the brother of Quinnen Williams. He's an excellent linebacker himself. He's been banged up this season, though. But he tweeted this out. He like, look, shit, I mean, if you're going to move my brother, you moving Sauce, shit, what about me? Let me get out of here. Like, it's bad in New York right now, bro. But, I mean, the Jets don't care. Personally, they're like, yo, we don't give a shit. Like, we don't really care that you guys want out. Like, it's a bad situation. We ain't winning shit with y'all anyway. So, but everybody in New York wants out. He's like, I mean, shit. You move my brother, you move Sauce. Let me get up out of this bitch. So, yeah, it's. I don't know if you're gonna get any more people getting moved out of New York, but they're definitely open. We heard that they are willing to move Jermaine Johnson. We know Breece Hall is clearly on the block. The only player they've said no to is wide receiver Garrett Wilson. Everybody else feels like they can be had for the right price. But once again, if I'm the Jets, I'm doing exactly what I've done. I've got you guys by the balls. You want my players. I don't have to do anything. I can hold on to Breece Hall and let him walk in the offseason. I don't give a shit. We already down our, like, if they had Braden Allen, they probably would be a lot more willing to move on from Breece Hall right now without a significant price tag attached to it. But they don't have Braden Allen or Braylon Allen, excuse me. He got hurt. And so it's going to be a little while before he comes back. And they're not pressed. Like, you don't give me what I want for Breece, I'm holding on to him. You don't give me what I want for Jermaine Johnson, I'm going to just hold on to him. I don't have to get rid of these dudes. It's not a necessity to get rid of these players. So that's what you do. I don't have to do anything. You gotta meet my demands. I don't have to meet yours. So right now, no activity anywhere. Breece Hall clearly wants out. And one of the things I've always said is, who wants a player that doesn't want you? That's a really bad position to be in, is to be somewhere or to have a player who has publicly made it known, bro, I want out. Get me out of here. Like, this ain't about Breece Hall wanting money like it was with Myles Garrett and all the other times we see players demand trades that really don't want to trade. Breece Hall really want out of New York. Like, get me out of here. Like, me out of here. That's Breece Hall right now. So we'll continue to see 5 minutes left. 5 minutes left for this trade deadline as we continue to check socials and check my phone real quick to see nothing new has transpired. So I don't know if you guys saw this, but Cardinals won't make QB change. I said this last night. Jonathan Gannon isn't going to stick with Jacoby Brissett. Like, that's an old school mentality that Troy Aikman and Joe Buck have. Oh, this team's playing really well, but Jacoby Brissett is a career backup. Like, Kyler Murray is their, $180 million quarterback, or whatever it is he's making. They're not sitting him down. And he's already made it publicly known when Kyler Murray is healthy, it's his job. Don't care how well Jacoby Brissett is playing, it's Kyler Murray's job. So he definitely just came out because that shit started to grow legs, and before it could take off and start running and gain more traction, let me shut that shit down right now. Like, Kyler Murray is our quarterback. So good for Jacoby Brissett that he's playing well, but let's not go overboard, right? But the offense does look better. I think anybody that's watched the Cardinals can see that the offense definitely looks better. There's no denying that. But that doesn't necessarily necessitate a change. All right. So remember our guy Kevin earlier came on and inquired about T'Vondre Sweat. Well, here's your answer on T'Vondre Sweat, according to Jordan Schultz. Despite significant league-wide interest, the Titans are not trading defensive tackle T'Vondre Sweat. They view him as a young, ascending cornerstone, a key part of their future plans, and have made it clear they're not looking to move him. So there was interest in T'Vondre Sweat. He is a dog. When I tell you, he is an athletic freak for his size. I definitely get why the Titans do not want to trade him. But this is the type of stuff that teams are looking at. Like I said, teams aren't really looking like this is not the time to trade for a backup swing tackle. That's not what the trade deadline's about. It's about trading for guys like T'Vondre Sweat. It's about trading for guys like Jacoby Meyers. It's about trading for guys like Sauce Gardner. It's about trading for guys like Rashid Shaheed. You're not trading for Nick Allegretti at the trade deadline. Like, that's not what you're doing. You're trading for a guy that you feel like can be impactful for your football team. And the Commanders simply don't have enough of those. I do think Debo could have been impactful for someone, should someone have been interested, but clearly either teams aren't interested or the Commanders themselves weren't interested in parting ways with him. Either way, doesn't feel like the Commanders are going to be active, which I didn't think they would be active during the trade deadline. All right, so we got another deal. I knew we would have at least one more deal, right? I told you this deadline spur action, and so much for me trying to get rid of Andrew Wiley to the Chargers, right? They want better than that, and they should, and I don't blame them for that. So the Chargers have made a deal with the Saints. Saints have been looking to move off parts. I've said if you're looking to upgrade your team, you should be calling New Orleans. They're one of those teams that should be pawning off deals and players. They are trading offensive lineman, former first-round pick Trevor Penning to the Chargers per source. That's a great move for the Chargers. Like, I don't think Penning is very good, but a new environment right now. I love his play style. I love how physical and nasty he is in terms of how he plays. But the technique isn't there. And so you get a new fresh start with a new coaching staff, and maybe they're able to get the most out of Trevor Penning But this is a good move for the Chargers. Clearly, no Joe Alt, no Rashawn Slater. You needed to do something, which is why I tried to pawn off Andrew Wiley on them. But Trevor Penning to the Chargers makes it 19 trades for this trade deadline between October and November, and 7 trades today that have taken place. So Trevor Penning going to be a Los Angeles Charger. And I wouldn't be shocked if there's one more deal. It's now 4 o'clock on the East Coast. So if the deal isn't in by now, it's not going to happen. But I'm gonna stick around for about another 10 minutes or so. Just to make sure that nothing else transpires. I don't think anything else will. That was the one deal I was waiting on. I thought that we might see Breece Hall get shipped off. But again, as I mentioned to you guys several times, who actually needs a bell cow back? Who's actually interested in trading for that guy now and then having to give him a deal in the offseason? Who's looking to do that? It just didn't make any sense for anyone, especially if the Jets' asking price was too high. So we got 7 deals today. We'll hang around for another 5 to 10 minutes to see if anything else shakes. If nothing else shakes, we'll get out of here. This was a very fun and entertaining deadline for the NFL. Like I said, it's not quite the NFL, but the NFL has stepped their game up with their trade deadline, and it's a lot more active. It's a lot more entertaining than it ever has been to me. But nothing beats the NBA trade deadline. That shit is like the wild, wild west, right? It's the one thing that the NFL can't do is it can't usurp the NBA trade deadline. That shit is bonkers every year. We saw Luka Doncic get traded last year. Like, that's never happening. Like, you're never going to see a superstar player in this league. That's not what Sauce Gardner is. Like, Luka Doncic is top 3 in the NBA. And, you know, Giannis is 1, or Joker is 1, Giannis is 2 to me. And Luka's probably the 3rd best player in the NBA. Wemby's going to be up there soon, right? Where he'll be number 1, 2, or 3. But Luka's probably like the 3rd best player in the NBA right now. I know Shea is really good, but Shea doesn't make others better. Like, Luka's a walking double-double with assists, triple-double on nights where he's grabbing boards. You know, Shea, you'd be lucky to get 5 assists out of Shea, you know, on a good night. So, like, Shea's a scorer, right? Shea doesn't grab a bunch of boards. You know what I mean? Like, Giannis and Joker, these are walking double-doubles, triple-doubles for Luka and Jokic. And he got traded at the trade deadline. The 3rd best player in the association got traded for, I don't want to call AD, you know, a bag of chips, you know, some airplane peanuts. But for what Luka Doncic represents, he got traded for some airline, you know, snacks is what he got traded for. So the NFL will never be that. You'll never see the 3rd best quarterback in the league get traded at the trade deadline out of nowhere. So the NFL can't compare to the NBA's trade deadline, but it's gotten better. And that's all you can ask for. It's gotten better. It's gotten better. A lot better. A lot more entertaining, to say the least. Shows like this weren't necessary once upon a time for the trade deadline because wasn't shit happening. Everybody was holding on to their stuff. All right. It's 4:04. We'll hang around for another about 5 minutes or so. Then we'll bounce. So about to hit the 3 o'clock or the 3-hour mark of this stream. So got to pay bills, folks. Let me hit this last ad, and then we'll come back and we'll clean up this trade deadline. We'll check social media a few more times just to make sure nothing late got in before the shot clock, and then we'll get out of here. Sleeper is the best way to experience and connect over sports together. It's a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat on games in real time with other users, get the fastest scores, blazing fast news and alerts right at your fingertips, play in fantasy leagues, and win real money on pick contests. So enjoy sports the way they were meant to, together. Download the #1 sports app today. Predict the hottest football stats like passing yards, receiving yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and much more to cash in on your daily fantasy football skills. Use promo code LTN and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Sleeper. All right, so we're back. All right, so Schefter has a new tweet. It's not a trade. It is not a trade, but he did fill us in on a couple of guys from the Miami Dolphins that so let's look. I'm already on Jordan Schultz's X. So I might as well stay here and give you this real quick. He just gave us an update on the Jets real quick. So let's go to that. Then we'll go to Schefter and his update on the Dolphins. So Schultz writes, Jets are not trading running back Breece Hall, who wanted out, linebacker Quincy Williams, and Jermaine Johnson per sources. Offers weren't good enough for them. So teams called and inquired. But again, if I'm the Jets, I'm not giving these guys away. I have no incentive to give them away, right? I'm open to trading them, but you got to make it worth my while. I'll just hold on to these dudes. Yeah, we stink. But all these guys, with the exception of Breece Hall, more likely than not, think Quincy Williams and Jermaine Johnson are all under contract for next season. I just bring them back. And if they leave in the offseason, I'm going to get compensatory picks. I'm not tripping either way. If you're not willing to give me what amounts to a compensatory pick, which is a third rounder, like a high-level compensatory pick, which is a third rounder, I'm not parting ways. I'm not giving these dudes away, right? So that makes a ton of sense. Schefter with an update on the Dolphins says, despite getting calls for Jalen Waddle and Bradley Chubb, the Dolphins did not make another deal before the deadline and opted to hold on to both. I think they weren't willing to trade Waddle. You would have had to knock their socks off. I do think they were willing to trade Bradley Chubb, but they weren't going to give him away. You were going to have to give them something that really made them feel good about the trade. And I just don't think teams were willing to part ways with what it was going to take to get. Let's check Jeremy Fowler, and then we will be able to get out of here. So Fowler has nothing else. So that's basically it. I don't think we're going to get anything else the remainder of this deadline. The deadline has come. It is gone. I don't think any deals got in before the shot clock other than the Trevor Penning deal from New Orleans to the Chargers. That was the last deal. So 7 deals total today. Third most in NFL history since 1990 on the actual trade deadline day. The biggest move obviously being Sauce Gardner from the Jets to the Colts. Blockbuster deal. No one saw it coming. 2 first-round picks and wide receiver Adonai Mitchell to the Jets in exchange for Sauce Gardner. Also, the Jets dealt Quinnen Williams, their star defensive tackle, to the Dallas Cowboys. 2nd-round pick in 2026, 1st-round pick in 2027, and defensive tackle Mozzie Smith was the haul for the Jets. And meanwhile, the Cowboys get Quinnen Williams. So very active day for the Jets. They had other guys that teams were interested in, but at the end of the day, teams weren't willing to give up what the Jets were asking for, and so they held on to Jermaine Johnson. They held on to Quincy Williams, Quinnen Williams' brother, and they also held on to Breece Hall, who many of us thought would get dealt today, and he was begging to get out of New York today, tweeting he wanted out. He did not get out. So other deals that are impactful, Jacoby Meyers to the Jags, 4th and 6th round picks shipped off to Vegas in exchange for Jacoby Meyers, who will help that Jaguars offensive attack, give them a possession receiver they can rely on. I think the biggest swap of an offensive player today was Rashid Shaheed going to the Seattle Seahawks. 4th and 5th round picks in 2026 draft, going to the New Orleans Saints in exchange for Rashid Shaheed. I think he is going to absolutely kill it in Seattle. That is a great move, and it bolsters an already dangerous offense with another dynamic weapon. So some other trades happened. Logan Wilson to the Dallas Cowboys for a 6th round pick. You had Tryon Shoyinka traded along with a 7th round pick from Cleveland to Chicago for a 6th round pick. I think that was all of the deals. So Tryon Shoyinka, Sauce Gardner, Breece, Quinnen Williams, Logan Wilson, Draymond Jones went from Tennessee to the Ravens for a 5th round pick. So you had that one. That's 5. Shaheed to the Seahawks for a 4th and a 5th. And we had the Jacoby Meyers to the Jaguars for a 4th and a 6th. So those are the 7 deals from today. Very active day for the NFL trade deadline. So that is it. It's 4:11. Nothing else is going to occur. I do have one more super chat. And so we'll get out of here on this. Joe, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, are you still a Joe Witt apologist? You must not have watched my show in about a month, because I've stopped apologizing for Joe Witt a long time ago. He's not good at his job. So no, I'm not a Joe Witt apologist anymore. I gave him a pass for long enough. I've seen the error of my ways, and I see that he's a very limited defensive coordinator. He needs elite stuff in order to be good, which is not what we have. He's not a coordinator, and this is what I've been salivating for a very long time. Give me the coordinator that can do more with less, not the coordinator that needs more to do his job adequately. And that is essentially, like, I'm not telling you that you want less talent. I just need the guy that's going to be able to squeeze whatever is in that rag out of it and get the most out of it. Joe Witt Jr. needs talent to make his scheme work. He's not innovative. He's not creative. He's got an old way of, calling defense. He's stuck in his ways. He wants to play man coverage. We don't have the corners to do that. He's not creative in his blitz packages. He doesn't maximize players. No, I'm not a Joe Witt apologist, Joe. So there you have it. Anyway, I digress. You guys get out of here. Have a good one. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next time. If you're a Commanders fan, I'll be getting with you here very shortly for Commanders Nightly News. Everyone else, see you on Thursday Night Football. Peace.